was a whole year.
It's 2022. All facts. Okay, we're on now.
Bible time.
Shalom, everybody. Happy Monday. I guess there's nothing special about this day, but it's a Monday. And Monday sometimes you got to bring that extra energy out.
Yeah.
Because everybody wants to be sleepy on Mondays. I'll be jealous because like Wednesdays are the hot energy days, and I got to sit back and wrestle and fight the spirit on Mondays, Because nobody would want to go online on Mondays yet. Everybody wants to sleep in and stuff.
Everybody got things to do.
Everybody has things to do. Why is it this Bible thing? I'll watch it on Tuesday.
That's hilarious.
These are the facts.
We appreciate the Tuesday guys, though. We
appreciate everyone.
They'll give us a great bump. We need that.
All I'm just saying is that, yeah. But
thank you.
Those Mondays be like,
thank you, Monday.
Was there any classes on Monday?
Yeah, thank you.
But we're all good.
Shalom.
But we love y'all and hope everybody had a Tawab Shabbat and a great weekend. We're going to get back in this book.
And much love to brothers out there in Guatemala.
Brothers
out there
Houston,
in Virginia,
Rochester, New York. Everybody out here that's getting the work in, doing their job, making those legitimate sacrifices.
The consistent guy putting
yeah, then we ain't gonna go
nasty
into it.
links out.
Don't
press these links, y'all.
Yeah, there's a hater out here, man, in the streets. But we just want to say shalom to everybody. Hope everybody's doing well. And we started off last Monday going over Israelite presence in Africa. We were just kind of explaining that before 70 AD, when we fell as a nation, there were a lot of Israelite outposts in Africa and really across the world, but we're going to try to focus on Africa.
And why is that important?
And the reason we're even going into this Africa process was because, I went back into my notes from years ago about the We're Not Africans class, and I wanted to kind of put a little more detail into our presence in Africa. There's no doubt about the fact that Israelites are not Africans, but it's important to understand that how much of a presence and how much of a what do you want to call it? I want to call it impact Israelites had in the African community itself, in the African lands itself.
And I got this too. It has a major psychological effect on how we view the Most High. I'm gonna say this is the reason why. Because once you get disenchanted with the church, and once you lose a desire to go to church and eat pork every day, right? What's the next move? You know what? I need to find something black. I'm tired of praying to a white Jesus.
Mm-hmm.
That's usually the realization that men get either in prison or when they're out of prison. Eventually you hit that wall where I can't keep bowing down to a white Jesus, right?
Yeah.
And then, I need something black. And your only two options on the shelf are, let's be a Muslim, or let's be pro-black.
Or that more kind of zone.
Yeah, that Pan-African concept. Let's go Pan-African. And so what happens is you start reading African research, one-day chic, he's looking for African jewelry, trying to identify with the homeland, the motherland. And the problem with that is you're eventually going to try to connect to the spiritual practices that were in the motherland.
Mm-hmm.
What the different cultures in Africa were doing. I don't want to go to
We're not going to
go into those cultural practices, but worshiping the ancestors, worshiping the woman as a goddess, those are African concepts.
Mm-hmm.
Wearing the ankh, which is supposed to be a woman's womb and a cross in a man's body, worshiping. You always go into about two Babylons.
Yeah.
Cult. Was it cults? Fertility cults.
Yeah, fertility cults. Yes.
It all goes back to fertility cults. It doesn't go back to the Most High God in the Bible.
Yes.
So all we're doing right now, we're just pointing out the reason why it's so important to know that we're not African is because that gets you one step closer to find out that you're an Israelite.
Yes.
You're one step closer to finding you're a Jew.
Yep.
When you come out the delusion of being African.
And when everybody sits back here and goes back to the time of slavery, and they go back to Africa and they try to trace their roots, what they need to understand is those roots were heavily, centered around our people who were Israelites living in Africa, and those people were the ones that got shipped over here in cargo slave ships. And as we're explaining this story, and how we talked about in North Africa or Libya, Israel had a heavy concentration of or influence in that Northern Africa area. We're going to start showing how we were in North Africa and all these other places, and how the Most High by virtue of enemies, different situations, the food, the vegetation, everything. The Most High started moving us back to the place where we eventually end up being sold into slavery. West coast of Africa, Central Africa. All these things happen by the Most High's will. But it was the Most High sitting back here, moving us from Israel to the Africas, North Africa to Western Africa, and all these things were happening.
Just to make a point, Rome, Spain, all those areas that are around the Mediterranean Sea, North Africa is just the opposite coast.
And we were going to that also. Exactly.
It's not that far from Rome, Spain. It's not.
And when you sit back here and look at where Israelite outposts were in northern Africa, you can understand why there's a lot of Israelites that were in Spain, that were in Carthage,
exactly,
which eventually was where Hannibal was from. And Hannibal and his army almost overthrew the Roman Empire. But they were Israelites. So there was even a lot of Israelites at the boot of Rome.
Exactly.
And all around Greece. This is, first of all, it kind of gives you understanding as to why Paul was in Corinth. Corinth was like in a major port city in Greece.
So you're saying ancient history, quote unquote, is black history?
It's black history, and all these places that Paul was sojourning to was places full of Israelites who knew who they were, mixed with Israelites who didn't know who they were.
And this is black history they won't teach you in school.
They're not going to teach you anywhere. So as we're going,
okay, Michael Jackson, Michael Jordan of the basketball.
I don't think they're going to talk about MLK in school, but I get your point.
they always say in February, Martin Luther King had a dream.
Oh yeah,
that's all you learn about black history.
Yes.
Martin Luther King, he had a dream.
I meant MJ, Michael Jackson. That was when you might not get about him.
They always show him or our people, like they say, we had great black men. They
if it's on BET,
like this,
on BET they might show it.
Kinda.
But anyway,
we're going to our class.
So let's go into it. We just wanted to sit back here and give Israel a little chance to get online because everything was kind of moving slow so far. So let's go to Luke 21, verse 20 through 24. Now already before, like I said, from last class, we explained how there were significant civilizations in North Africa, in present-day Istanbul, Turkey, or area of Turkey, which is Asia Minor. All these different places, there was a heavy Israelite influence. Yep. Now we're at the point where we also mentioned how the Greeks, the Ptolemies, they were taking Israelites and sending them to Africa to do menial work, slave work. And a lot of them ended up being.
The Greeks were sending us.
The Greeks were sending. Listen, remember Ptolemy went into Israel, took 300,000 out, sent us to Egypt, to sit back and do work there, and then some of them were allowed to be freed or what have you.
Yeah.
Point is this: the Greeks had their turn at us. After the Greek Empire folded or ended, who came into power? Then your Romans came in. Now your Romans are sitting back here, and it was their time to rule, and it was also the beginning of all of our great cities and synagogues to start falling.
And can I say this too?
Mm-hmm.
And the Greeks had a heavy cultural influence over the Hebrews.
Yep.
Their culture, a lot of Hebrews wanted to divest from being Israelites and go into being a Greek.
Yes, but also there were Israelites who maintained those synagogues and maintained their way of life. And what we're about to read now is a culmination of all of those great synagogues to start to dissipate, and you start to see the remnant and the knowledge of who we are starting to diminish around the earth. Okay, so now let's get Luke 21, verse 20 through 24.
Luke 21, verse 20. And when ye shall see Jerusalem compassed with armies.
So listen, Jerusalem was compassed with armies from approximately 66 AD to 70 AD. Israel didn't fall like in one week or 1 month or 6 months. They were these back and forth skirmishes from 66 AD all the way to 70 AD. So this wasn't some short period of time. The issues and the beef and the escalation and the fighting with the Romans hit to a crescendo and to a high point, and by 70 AD is when everything fell apart. But the skirmishes were from 66 AD to 70 AD. Continue.
Then know that the desolation thereof is nigh.
So when the prophecy that Christ was explaining is when Jerusalem was compassed with armies, just know the end was near. But we also have to understand the end wasn't just near. for the stronghold in Israel. The end was near with all these other Israelite strongholds around the world. And this is what, when I was young, I didn't understand that it was a trickle-down effect. I thought it was just 70 AD falling, and then everything else was there wasn't anything else but Jerusalem in 70 AD. But as we're going to continue to read, it was Jerusalem, then Cyrene, Alexandria, all these major synagogues where Israel was teaching the Bible and had places for the Jews to congregate was falling apart before our eyes. So, continue.
Verse 21. Then let them which are in Judea flee to the mountains, and let them which are in the midst of it depart out.
So he's like, it's not. And when you see this place compassed with armies, it's time to get out of here, and it's time to flee to the mountains. Now we're going to sit back here, hold that verse, and go to Jeremiah chapter 51, verse 24 through 25. Jeremiah 51. Somebody can help me get that.
I got you.
Thank you, sir.
Jeremiah 51 what?
Jeremiah 51, verse 24 and 25.
Okay, Jeremiah 51 and 24.
Yes, sir.
And I will render unto Babylon and to all the inhabitants of Judea all their evil that they have done in Zion in your sight, saith the Most High.
God.
Behold, I am against thee, O destroying mountain.
So the Most High was referring to Babylon as a destroying mountain. And the reason we're going into this verse is to explain that when you read about the mountains, you're also reading about different nations. So when the prophecy in Luke 21 was about us fleeing to the mountains, it wasn't necessarily talking about mountainous areas, even though we did flee to certain mountains, and we're going to read about that in a little bit. But the prophecy was about us leaving or fleeing to different nations, because once the Romans compassed Jerusalem, that was it. It was going to be a complete slaughter, and it was going to mark the destruction. The second fall of the temple was about to happen. Okay, so are you still got more there in
25?
Yes,
Correct.
read on, sir.
Jeremiah 51:25 from the top. Behold, I am against thee, O destroying mountain, saith the Most High, which destroyeth all the earth. And I will stretch out mine hand upon thee, and roll thee down from the rock.
Yes.
And will make thee a burnt mountain.
So listen, a burnt nation. So once again, in the scriptures, mountains mean nations. Are we clear with that?
God.
Let's jump back to Jeremiah chapter 21, verse 20.
Luke 21?
I'm sorry, Luke. Sorry, Luke 21, verse 21. Verse 21.
Yeah.
Now listen, if I'm going too fast, please let me know, online or in person. I'm trying to bring out a point. Let's go 21 to verse 24. So, if I'm going too fast, let me know. Just raise your hand, just say something, and I will make adjustments accordingly. So, Luke 21 and 21.
Luke 21 and verse 21. Then let them which are in Judea flee to the mountains.
The Israelites that are in the city of Judea leave to the mountains, the nations. Read on.
And let them which are in the midst of it depart out. And let not them that are in the countries enter thereinto.
Exactly. Don't let any other people that are from different cities and countries enter in, because they're going to go right into a bloodbath. And the people that are living in the city got to get out, because the fall of Jerusalem has to happen. Okay, so read on.
For these be the days of vengeance, that all things which are written may be fulfilled.
These are the days of vengeance, that all things that are written may be fulfilled.
This is prophecy.
Those all things that are written in many books and many chapters, whether it's Deuteronomy 28 that talks about the curses that have to hit Israel, us being put in captivity in slave ships, with cargo slave ships, also in different chapters in Isaiah, different chapters of Zephaniah talk about us leaving our homeland, being broken down, and our pride finally being broken. It talks about that in Zephaniah. I hopefully will have enough time to go into it, how these things had to happen to finally break our pride and our ego. because we still weren't willing to listen and follow the Heavenly Father. We still had our own agendas, and the Most High had to allow all these things. What you're about to see, everything had to happen. We all had to go to where we're at. Israel in North Africa, Israel in Europe, Israel in Asia Minor. All these things had to happen. We all had to get to the Americas or in other parts of the country, but the Most High to eventually bring us together and redeem us and rescue us and save us. So, continue.
Luke 21 in verse 23. But woe unto them that are with child, and to them that give suck in those days, for there shall be great distress in the land.
It's going to be very difficult at the time for having newborn children, new mothers, during all this death and destruction. This wasn't the time to have a young family. Read on.
God, and wrath upon this people, and they shall fall by the edge of the sword, and shall be led away captive into all nations.
And Israel shall be led away captive into all nations. But when you read these chapters and verses, you read it and you think these things happen like overnight. But as we're going to go into tonight and probably next Monday, you'll start seeing a gradual deterioration. It'll be, we'll have a city, we'll have an area, we'll have a stronghold, it'll temporarily rise, then it will fall, then we'll have to migrate somewhere else. We'll build, we'll set a foundation, it'll break down, we'll have to migrate. The Most High will continue to push us down to the west and to the south until eventually we fought and we fought and we fought and it wasn't enough. So that's where we're going to kind of chronicle the path that we went and all the things we went through in the process of getting to the Americas. So, read on.
God. And Jerusalem shall be trodden down of the Gentiles, until the times of the Gentiles be fulfilled.
And once we got kicked out in 70 AD, the time of the Gentiles has not even been fulfilled yet. We're still in a situation where the Gentiles have not been, their time isn't up yet. It's soon, but it isn't up yet. I need somebody, if they can, well, Dahlia, you might have to read this. From Babylon to Timbuktu? Yes, sir. Do you have the book with you? I know. I didn't prep nobody. That's on me. Babylon to Timbuktu.
I got it.
Okay.
Page 84.
Page 84. You know where it is. It's the second paragraph. Can you type that in there, sir? So Babylon Timbuktu, page 84, the second paragraph. We're going to kind of go into this prophecy, and we're going to kind of read the age 84.
Yeah.
This is what Babylon Timbuktu. This is what Babylon, yeah. And we're going to kind of read how this prophecy by Christ in Luke 21, how it came to pass, and pretty much the fruition of it. Okay, let me see. Oh, you got to put the page.
Page
84, paragraph 2. This is a really good book, y'all. It's by Rudolph R. Windsor, and it gives a lot of information expressing how our people, what they were doing in Africa. There's a few books that kind of explain and goes into our plight in the land of Africa for the 1,000 to 1,500 years we was out there. Yes, sir?
You said page 84?
Yes.
On what paragraph?
Second
Paragraph
paragraph.
2, sir.
Okay, paragraph 2.
Now listen, let's go.
God.
Read that.
From Babylon to Timbuktu, page 84, paragraph 2. In the year 65 BC, the Roman armies under General Pompey captured Jerusalem. In 70 AD, General Vespasian.
That's what we said in 65. General Pompey captured Jerusalem. That was when they surrounded them. They were surrounded around 65 to 66 AD, and it took around 4 years to completely ransack and wipe them out. Okay, continue.
In 70 AD, General Vespasian and his son and his son Titus put an end to the Jewish state with great slaughter. During the period of the military governors of Palestine, many outrages and atrocities were committed against the residue of the people.
So what it's saying is, listen, many Jews were wiped out and eradicated. Many Jews were killed, Many Jews were tortured. All of the gold artifacts, all of the treasured items got sent back to Rome. Our people were sent to Rome and were put into, what do you call it, a war? Gladiator events. Colosseums. They were sat back here and killed off by lions and bears and all type of creatures. This was the beginning of Israel's downfall. And the collapse of Jerusalem was the beginning of the other Israelites and other parts falling apart as well. Okay, continue.
Yeah.
What we have online, what we put online is just an example. Like I said last week, we're giving roundabout guesstimations of where Israel went once they left to the Americas. Once they left Israel and went to Africa. What I have online, this is what I have online, what I passed out online. And one of y'all can get that? It just kind of has an idea. It shows you we left Israel. Or keep reading, Elisha. I'm going to explain it.
During the period from Pompey to Julius, it has been estimated that over 1 million Jews fled into Africa.
So over 1 million Jews fled to Africa, obviously by the way of Egypt. And what I'm passing around in front of the brothers and sisters, what we have online, is this is approximately the path that they took to get to West Africa. Now I had explained last week that Northern Africa was already heavily populated with Jews. Now we're sitting back here reading about Elephantine and other cities that were heavy, what do you call it?
Guarded.
Not guarded, but these were Elephantine and some of these areas over here were areas that Israelites lived in already.
They were established,
They were
previously
previously established cities. I had talked about, for the most part, Cyrene and Alexandria and other parts up north, but there were other outposts of Israelites that were in Africa already settled. So, with that being said, as we came down, this is an approximation of where we went. We went south and then we went west. Okay? And, okay, so I'm just getting a lot of crazy text here.
So
but yeah.
Densely populated?
I wouldn't say
Oh,
densely populated. I would just say that there were for instance, there were established Israelite areas and cities. For instance, Elephantine is an Israelites established a garrison, and it's at around 70 AD. Okay, but also on the flip side, we were going through Elephantine as we were sitting back here and leaving Rome. Now, what I'm about to read is that all that hell Rome gave the Jews in Jerusalem, it kept following us. This is why we kept leaving to the west. We didn't just keep going to the west just for the hell of going to the west. The Roman persecution didn't stop at Jerusalem. The persecution kept following us into Africa, into Egypt. Okay? So, this is an approximate path we were going towards West Africa. We were being pushed to West Africa because these Romans were pursuing us from not just because Rome was conquering Jerusalem, but they were taking out the other outposts. They were taking over the whole world. Okay? So, where are we at in page 84? This says it has been estimated. Do that again.
It has been estimated that over 1 million Jews fled into Africa, fleeing from Roman persecution and slavery.
So 1 million of us fled and left to Africa. Now listen, we already had over 1 million Jews in Africa already. We talked about that last week. So we had 1 million Jews already. Now we're bringing 1 million more. These numbers are getting larger and larger and larger. And you can see the Most High is drawing us out to that country for a reason. Okay. We're going to let that go.
Couple one scripture real quick.
Yes, sir.
Deuteronomy 28 verse 45.
Okay.
Deuteronomy 28 verse 45.
Yeah, you're good. You're good.
Deuteronomy chapter 28 and verse 45.
So what is this information showing? It's showing this scripture dynamic. Read.
Deuteronomy 28 and verse 45. Moreover, all these curses shall...
All these curses, the word curse means an undesirable condition. All these undesirable conditions, read.
Shall come upon thee.
Shall do what?
Come upon thee.
Come upon this. But how? Read.
and shall pursue thee.
It shall pursue thee.
Yes.
Key point is pursue.
And it wasn't just talking about these curses pursuing us in America.
Exactly.
These curses were pursuing us in Africa. These curses were pursuing us in Turkey, in Europe. It didn't matter where we went. The curses were following us. They were coming to get us.
If you're an Israelite, I don't care if you're in China.
Yep.
These curses are pursuing you. Read.
And overtake thee.
And do what?
And overtake
That
thee.
means you're going to resist the curse.
Yep.
I don't want to go in this condition. I'm going to fight back. But the scripture prophesies we will be overtaken.
God.
Read.
Till thou be destroyed.
Till that be what?
Be destroyed.
Till we be destroyed off of our establishments.
Yep. All doubt, no doubt. Any more?
That's it. That's all.
Okay, so we're going to take this image off. Let's now go to let's go to this Hebrewisms of West Africa. Hebrewisms of West Africa. Another book by Joseph Williams. It's going to be I need you to type that in. Hebrewisms of West Africa. And what we're going to do, we're going to explain. It's going to be page 206.
All right.
We're going to go into, now we know that Africa, well not Africa, but Israel got ransacked 70 AD. We got eradicated, a million of us fled, the rest of us were left for dead or sent to different outposts and areas to be slaves. Hebrews of West Africa. Now it's page 206, and we're going to go paragraph 1 through 3. Naka, if you can get this, I'd appreciate it. You can, damn, there's only one book.
2 through 3.
1 through 3. Paragraph 1 through 3. Yeah, I'm gonna still need you to do it. Let me see. You know what? I need you to read from the yellow to the yellow. Here to there.
Thank you.
Thank you, sir.
Hebrewism.
They need that Sabbath voice right there that you got, man. He's got a great Sabbath voice, if y'all ever heard it. But keep going, because there's a lot of information, too.
Hebrewisms of West Africa, page 206.
Okay.
Palestinian exiles. With the destruction of the Second Temple in Jerusalem, the Jewish centers of Africa were strengthened by the arrival of many fugitives.
So what happened is this. We just talked about this in Babylon and Timbuktu. And we just talked about this, that 1 million Jews left Israel. They were fugitives. They were running from, they were fugitives on the run from the Roman Empire. So these African synagogues and these locations where Israelites had synagogues in Africa were being strengthened by these fugitives. It just proves that we were going into Africa by the way to Egypt to escape this Roman persecution and slavery. Right? Read on.
Voluntary exiles as well as unfortunate slaves.
So remember Christ said, get out before. When Jerusalem gets compassed with armies, get out of there now. So some of them was able to leave early, and some of them escaped just in time.
Right.
Read on.
According to Schlutz, there is a tradition.
Schlutz is a guy that's like an historian of the time, and you hear about that guy's name a lot in these readings from different books.
Oh, okay.
Read on.
There is a tradition common to all the Jews of Tripoli.
At Tripoli.
Tripoli.
Now, the Israelites in Tripoli it's in a city in Libya. Okay, this is so I might have talked to y'all last week about Cyrene and these different countries that had in Alexandria that had synagogues. We weren't just in those 3 cities.
Yeah.
We were sitting back here and setting up establishments all across the northern part of Africa. Okay?
That's like us having our own Chicago in Africa, our own Dallas in Africa, our own Atlanta in Africa, our own Houston in Africa, our own Memphis in Africa. It's equivalent to that.
Done.
We have our own quote unquote chocolate city in the northern part of Africa.
Everywhere was chocolate city though, but I'm with you.
I
Everything you're saying is right.
I'm just saying
We had our own
for
Israelite city.
For our people, you know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
So we have to look like that because we look at it as these ancient times and we
It's
won't,
too
we won't-
much.
we won't relate to it. But we just had our
No
own.
doubt.
We had our own Brooklyn, our own Bronx. We had our own Miami. In those areas, we traveled. We were wandering.
I'm looking for something, y'all. Forgive me. Did I get rid of it? What was I doing? I think I might have didn't. You know what?
Be explaining, bro.
I'm gonna do a whole lot of hand gestures.
Up here.
Like this. It was here, and it was here, and it was there.
God.
Matter of fact, it's actually this image, and I do have it. Just if you guys can be a little patient with me, I think I can show it to y'all, and then everything will be okay.
Is the Two Babylons a good book to you? Side note.
Yeah.
The confident, yeah, it's like on one page. You get to get one page out of that.
I'm gonna say this: it wouldn't hurt to get the book. Now, this was the image I thought I had had this one, but on this picture, it was the back of the page that I showed y'all earlier, and you see that entire dark area on the screen. That was where we were sitting back here and inhabiting, and had strongholds and cities in. So you have that dark area, which is along the Mediterranean Sea, and that takes us from Cyrene, Alexandria, going west. There's all these cities that kind of connect, and Tripoli is part of those cities. It's just not on there. But we were all around living around the seas and the water coast areas. That was our survival. And you'll also see in Spain, we had areas where we were sitting back here living in Spain, Rome, Carthage,
And we heavily populated
Greece,
Spain.
and Asia Minor.
Yeah.
And that's the point. All these areas is where we were inhabiting from the north. But as we had these strongholds up north, when 70 AD happened, we started migrating what? Down into the west. So we had northern outposts, and then eastern, and then eventually western outposts. And this is where the images that I just sent.
Just like you got Midwest, East Coast, South.
So like I said on the screen, that we had the north. Now we're working on the east and the west further. And we already have 1 million up north. Now we have 1 million going down to the west.
Yeah.
2 sets of Israelites going different directions, eventually all going to post up on the west and the south. Okay, so we're on that. So now, continue reading, sir.
There is a tradition common to all the Jews of Tripoli that they are the direct descendants of captive Jews from Palestine.
Exactly. Read on.
One of the generals of Titus, called Phanegarus, in the Midrash, is said to have transported some 30,000 Jews into the mountains.
The Midrash is just some Hebrew Torah interpretations. We don't follow it, but we're just using this as a straight informational source. Okay? We keep going.
And there established them as tillers of the soil.
Mm-hmm.
This is said to be the origin of the present Jewish population.
Okay.
Abraham Halfin, an author of the early 19th century, speaks as follows in this connection.
What's crazy is how these Edomites can't realize that it was blacks in Africa calling themselves Jews that whole time. It wasn't white guys up there in North Africa calling themselves Jews.
They're not reading the scriptures.
I know.
Can I pull this one scripture right here?
Yeah.
Isaiah 11 and 12. Isaiah chapter 11 and verse 12.
Somebody else get this so not hacking them.
Read this point.
You don't got to just
I got
bounce
you.
back and forth every 5 minutes.
Isaiah chapter 11, verse 12.
Uh-huh.
And he shall set up an ensign for the nation,
So he shall set up an ensign for the nations. Read on.
Mm-hmm.
and shall assemble the outcasts of Israel.
So the Most High prophetically, in the end times, the Most High is going to do what? Assemble or bring together the outcasts of Israel. Read on.
And gather together the dispersed of Judah.
Gather together the dispersed of who?
Judah.
And Judah is the southern kingdom. You have Judah, Benjamin, Levi, your Haitians, so-called Jamaicans, so-called American Negroes. Those 3 tribes that are the southern kingdom of Israel will be dispersed, along with other tribes, to the 4 corners of the earth.
And class now is just talking about the dispersed going westward in Africa. Northwestward and southwestward. Okay?
Can you read that's that line?
Come and gather together the dispersed of Judah from the four corners of the earth.
So this is prophecy that the Most High is going to bring us back together as a nation. But there had to be a falling away first.
Falling away, and then a gathering, and then a capturing.
God.
So keep going, Naga.
Among the older people, I found a tradition handed down to them from their ancestors that at the time of the destruction of Jerusalem, one of the generals of Titus, Phanegarus, king of the Arabs, led a number of captive Jews into the mountains, 2 days distant from Tripoli, and there handed them over to the Arabs.
And what you're going to start reading that this connection with the so-called white man and Ishmael, this was the beginning of something that happened and continued down the line. You had the Romans dealing with the Arabs, working together, and most of the time Esau and Ishmael worked together to perfect the slave trade process. They were sitting back here doing slavery way before the quote-unquote transatlantic slave trade.
God.
Romans and Arabs working on slaving our people since the time of the Roman Empire. Okay?
Against them.
Confederate against them.
Yeah. Oh, and that we're gonna go into that later. How they came together to sit back here, and they've been coming together to take us down. Ishmael and Esau. Let's continue.
From these mountains, they came to Tripoli, the coast of Libya, of the part played by the Jews of Cyrenaica in the insurrection of 115 to 116 AD.
So that now they're talking about an insurrection from what, sir?
From 115 to 116 AD.
So listen, now there's an insurrection and another war between the Jews and the Romans 40 years after what? 70 AD, the fall of the Jewish Empire. So now we have more insurrections in other Israelite towns. You see Cyrenaica is right below Cyrene, all around these coastal cities that we were inhabiting during our strongholds in North Africa. So now 40 years after 70 AD, another 70 AD is happening. Another 70 AD type of destruction to Israel and Africa was happening. Read on.
In 115, they threw themselves on their Greek neighbors, massacring, it is said, some 220,000 of them.
The Romans took out 220,000 Jews. Now, to be specific, at this time, we inhabited the land with the Greeks also. How do we know that? Everybody talks about the Greeks being in Alexandria, but we also had synagogues and outposts in Alexandria also. The Greeks had their run of Egypt and North Africa before Rome came and took it over, right? So they just took over power and control. Romans came in, wiped us out, 220,000 of us. But keep going.
Some 220,000 of them. After which, they endeavored to join forces with their brothers who had risen in Egypt and in Cyprus.
So now what's happening is the Jews that are in Cyprus, the Jews that are in Cyrene, the Jews that are in Alexandria, they're having to come together to sit back here and take out their foe that took out their brothers in 70 AD. What is it showing you? We're all collapsing right around the same time. We're all falling apart right around the same time. Read on.
The war lasted 3 years, and the rebellion was mercilessly suppressed.
Listen, the rebellion ended in 4 years in Jerusalem. This one took 3. Read on.
The Roman legions surrounded the rebels and put them to the sword. Even the women were not spared.
Listen, the Roman legion sat back here and was wiping us out left and right because it was our time to fall everywhere. Don't forget, the numbers got inflated because we were leaving Israel to go to Africa. So we joined up and we're still getting our asses kicked. Read on.
Cyrene was devastated.
Cyrene was that heavy hub that Israelites called their own, and it was destroyed and devastated. Read on.
And almost depopulated of Greek and Jews alike.
Read on.
To cut off the retreat of the rebels, the Romans turned the whole country into a desert.
So, they wiped out. Listen, there's no reason to stay in Cyrene at this point. It's a damn desert.
And can I give a modern example? You look at Iraq, you look at Afghanistan, you look at lands that when Edom or Esau, or the so-called Roman Caucasian, whatever you want to call them, right? When they get their militaries together, they completely annihilate the adversary.
That's Habakkuk 2 and 5. Keep talking.
They completely annihilate the adversary's environment.
Somebody get their verses down. We had us talking.
They completely annihilate the environment. They destroy everything to prove their point and to get the leverage that they desire to have for the purpose of resources, for the purpose of economics.
But it's taking and robbing and stealing every morsel of resource they could possibly take. Read that Habakkuk 2 and 5. Right on your point.
Habakkuk 2 and 5. Yea, also, because he transgresseth by wine.
The white man Esau transgresses by his wine. His wine is his influence. His wine is his propaganda.
His media.
That's how he spins the narrative.
Yeah.
That's how he can control an entire group of people without using force and military and weapons every 5 seconds. His propaganda is one of his greatest tools to manipulate the people. And you're going to also read about how Ishmael used propaganda to help get leverage on our people when we were going to war with them. But anyway, continue.
Yea, also, because he transgresseth by wine, he is a proud man.
Esau is a proud man. Read on.
Neither keeping at home.
Esau is always in another country. Always got sitting back here trying to play big brother to some other country's resources.
Yeah.
Y'all can't handle that resource. Let us handle it. We can sit back here and work that oil better than you. Gaddafi, you guys, your whole country was out of the red. Economy was fine. Let us come in here, kill you, and take over your place and make it a slum. Like everybody else's place is. Make y'all debt slaves like the rest of the world. And just say Gaddafi was a bad guy. Even though he had free education for everybody in the world, in their country, they were self-sustaining economically. This is how he does things. He can never stay at home. What he has isn't good enough for him.
I want to put an ambassadorship. I want to put an embassy in every country on the earth.
Got it. But keep going.
Who enlargeth his desire as hell.
He says he enlarges his desire as hell. Everywhere he goes, he needs to sit back here and destroy and control and manipulate more lands, more people, more societies. He has to destroy more places. So you know what the reality was that Jerusalem wasn't enough. Let's go to Cyrene.
Yeah.
Let's go to Alexandria.
Yep.
Let's wipe out these institutions of higher learning. Everybody talks about the greatness of Alexandria, but they took it and they destroyed it prematurely. And they burnt all the books and a lot of the histories that was in those books for the purpose of sitting back here and bringing more hell across the world.
And manipulate, like you said, manipulating narratives.
Exactly.
And that's no different than the Spaniards coming down and destroying all the natives in Texas, the natives in Mexico, and the natives in the Caribbean islands. It's the same extension.
Yep. And then sit back. They will sit back here and take out Alexandria, and just say that it was the Greeks is what brought the wisdom to Alexandria, and completely excluding the Israelites and their books and their knowledge and their learning that made Alexandria a phenomenal hub and a place of knowledge and wisdom across the world.
We're civilizing the dark races. That's what they say.
Exactly.
That's
the narrative.
That's white supremacy. We're civilizing the dark world.
That's the propaganda. That's the story. We were already civilized before they came down.
You were monkeys on trees, right? In Black Africa, you were monkeys on trees. Look at the old cartoons.
Black Africa.
Yeah, but look at Porky Pig cartoon going to Africa. It is crazy, bro.
It's horrible.
It's crazy. And when you're a child,
you're watching. Porky Pig was always black initially.
Oh, Porky Pig?
Yes.
I didn't know that.
He was black with huge lips. But anyway, keep going. I don't want to change the subject.
All I'm saying is they had Porky Pig flying to Black Africa.
It's the truth, that.
Big
No, it was Elmer Fudd had them lips. He was the black guy.
Oh, he was. I didn't know that.
He was a colored.
I didn't know that.
He was a colored.
I just know you can see Esau's.
And the rabbit kept sitting back here, just making him look bad. He was always 3 steps ahead of this slow black guy with a gun. It was the truth, that. But keep going on.
And the funny part about this is that Esau teaches and educates his children how to view us through cartoons, right?
Yep.
It's like he's teaching our children now how to look at life from the lens of the new feminine, from the lens of the new LGBTQ movement. All right? This is what he does to pass down, destroy civilizations, and change the culture. destroy the Native Americans,
Yep.
and have them wear English clothes and cut their hair and call themselves and change their names from Native names to Caucasian names.
Yep.
Same thing. So now we're getting the same experience that you saw Gad go through and Reuben go through in America. You're seeing that same experience.
All throughout history. And a lot of times, and one of the reasons we're going into this is because we get the narrative in America,
Yeah.
we get the narrative in Israel. But that narrative has been going on in all different parts of the world, and it just hasn't really been communicated about enough
Yeah.
with our plight in Israel and the battles we had with these nations in Africa.
Come.
Okay? So let's continue.
Did you want Obadiah?
Oh, did you want? No, we got to finish this verse. In Habakkuk. I'm sorry, yeah.
Come. And is as death, and cannot be satisfied.
And he cannot be satisfied.
I want lithium.
Mm-hmm.
Gold ain't
I
enough.
want bauxite.
Silver, yeah, I want bauxite. I want more exquisite minerals. I want to live off the fat.
And I'm not going to stop until the people cannot. Let me take all the minerals of the earth, mine it. I don't care who I hurt, who I destroy, whose families I destroy, whose water source I destroy. Quadzah from Houston had hit me up on about this bauxite mining that the so-called white man in Europe and the so-called Chinese are sitting back here mining in Jamaica, and how they're sitting back here and trying to mine this bauxite in the Maroon country, and that land that was off limits for the rest of the continent or the rest of the island.
Yeah.
They were explaining that bauxite is a key mineral that's used for aluminum, and you can't get anything done without this bauxite.
So you have to have this mineral.
You have to have this mineral, and they're trying to go into this bushland to mine this mineral. But when you mine this bauxite mineral, there ends up being this liquid residue that they dump. And when they dump out this liquid residue, it turns into this red clay dust. And this red clay dust, if it gets on your hair and your environment, you start losing your hair. When that dust gets on the food sources, the plants, the greenery, nothing can grow in the area anymore.
Wow.
The water is toxic. You can't drink the water. Now in that maroon land, there's no running water. Right? You get your water from an area and you put it in a container, and then you know what? There's like all these little towns. They have these little water reservoirs, and they have like open hole areas on top of it. So this bauxite stuff goes right in the top of it. So as you're running your water, your food water, your bath water, it's all polluted, and the people are going to getting cancer, getting sick. It deals with your fertility, and then what ends up happening, the further they go into this rainforest, if they keep letting them drill, it's going to affect the water source that leads out to the rest of the country. But they don't care. They're sitting back here trying to take little pieces at a time to get more into the interior, and they're fighting to keep Esau and the Chinese from going in there and completely ravaging the country.
They're still conquesting.
And that's the point of what they're saying. Nothing's ever enough. They keep enlarging hell. What you gonna say?
Obadiah 1:5? Or
Yeah, but I don't want to go too much into Esau's insanity. But yes, listen, they're sitting back here and they continue to take and destroy the regular people. They don't matter anymore. And I pretty much, there's a bauxite type story in all these third world quote unquote countries.
Even here.
Whether it's in Mexico,
Yeah.
South America, Central America, there's probably 8 million stories like that. So let's continue.
And cannot be satisfied,
Mm-hmm.
but gathereth unto him all nations.
He goes under all nations and he gathers them to destroy them and to manipulate and control them. Read on.
And heapeth unto him all people.
All people, all nations under his subjection. So now we know this insurrection that was happening in North Africa, Cyrene, which was like Northwest Africa, was in 115 AD, right?
Yep, 115
Okay.
to 116 AD.
So keep going.
The Romans turned the whole country into a desert. These means, however, only succeeded in drawing a large number of Jews further into Sidon.
Mm-hmm. Sidon is closer to northwestern Africa. So Israel started getting pushed further westward. Okay, I have another map I want to show you guys. I'm going to go back to this, but it shows another migration map. And this migration map, it looks kind of janky, but it's okay because it still shows you locations that Israel kept migrating to. You see that there's two different migration directions. I'm going to show y'all. I'm just going to pass this out real quick to everybody in class. You'll see a northern migration direction, and you'll have your southern migration direction. So you'll have, we talked about the southern one, Antonio, kind of deals with Israel, the million that left Israel to Africa. They have their migration path. Then the northern had their migration path. All these numbers are different cities that we had strongholds in. Cyrene, Elephantine, Alexandria, Tamanet, Uganda, Libya, Kazembe. All these are just different areas. As we've gone westward, we kept opening and building different cities, and our opponent or the other nations kept attacking them and tearing them down and kept pushing us westward. Okay, continue, sir.
And towards the Atlas Mountains.
Atlas Mountains is getting closer to Morocco. And Morocco is right adjacent to Spain. You see how we're going from close to Egypt? Now we're getting pushed all the way to Morocco, which is near Spain. And we wonder why there was a lot of Israelite presence in Spain. We're literally a hop, skip, and a jump, a boat ride across, and you're in Spain. Okay? It kind of gives us understanding as why there were so many Moors, why there were so many Israelites that were over there.
And this for those that we're reading, right? This is the setup for the background of Paul's journeys.
Huh?
Paul, when you read the New Testament, Paul's going from Corinth and going to Galatia and Ephesus, and he's going to all these different strongholds and settlements all throughout Europe, throughout Asia Minor, tip of Africa.
But you know what it also shows? Everything you're saying is right. What it proves is those areas that Paul went to had a lot of people that looked like you and me there. And it wasn't just sitting back here. It gives a lot more clarity to understand who Paul was teaching and who he was going to teach in these cities and lands. He was teaching our people who either lost, didn't know who they were, or had an idea of who they were, but needed to learn Christ.
Not Gentiles, but Israelites that were living like Gentiles in those lands.
It makes so much more sense.
From being Hebrews.
It makes so much more sense seeing the populations and how they were at that time. The areas that Paul was going to were hot spots that had a lot of Israelites functioning and flowing in those areas. Okay, let's keep going, sir.
Later, Schultz returns to the same subject. But can we be sure, he asks, that these settlements were entirely wiped out? Did not their ascendancy amongst the Libyans render it possible for at least a remnant of them to take refuge among the Berbers?
Then the Berbers, I'm not going to go too deep into it, but Berbers were more of your wanderers. And they were operating in the sub-Sahara, and that's Sahara desert area. So what it's showing you is those Israelites, with all this chaos going, some of them went into the interiors of these desert lands. Some went to the desert lands, some kept going west. Okay, read on.
Among the Berbers, there to continue in the exercise of political power. That was in the highlight.
So even in this map, it shows you one of their settlements was in the Sahara, and it was referred to as Tamentit. And that was an area that we were kind of populating in the area over the time. All I'm trying to tell you, what we're explaining is just basic concepts of how we kept migrating westward. I'm not trying to get any deeper than that.
And it's basically geography
and all
class.
That.
This is basically, when you went to school, you had geography class, and what were the 50 states that made the United States? These are one of the settlements that made Israelite outposts outside of Israel. Israelite hotspots outside of our landmass.
Okay. And like I said, we already explained earlier where we were populating during all this war and conflict around 115, 120.
And this proves it wasn't no people with the big lips walking around with plates in their lips and big ass necks sticking up like giraffes walking around with spears. That wasn't them out there.
They might have been in different places.
We wasn't doing that.
We weren't doing that.
We weren't rocking 10,000 rings around our necks and put
Necks
our
on
babies,
fire.
putting babies under cows. The cows pissing the baby.
Yeah, yeah.
And this baby is getting baptized by cow piss.
Yep. That wasn't
And
us.
wearing these big African masks, dancing with the shaman outfits on, and worshiping. You know, I won't go into it, but the whole point
Yeah.
is.
Thank you, my
we're
brother.
not gonna go there.
I appreciated that.
Yeah, but we. That wasn't us. That wasn't us. We might have been trying to copy it, but that wasn't us.
Horrible, B.
These were Israelites.
And there were civilized, classy cities.
There you go.
Okay, so now listen. What we're trying to go into now is who knows approximately when Rome started fading out?
Actually,
Just give me an approximate. This got to be specific, huh?
I started losing power.
Yeah, when Rome started falling apart.
Like 2003.
Well,
Wow. You gave me the Issachar like the San Antonio. I was like, what's all that for? Huh?
I'm glad.
Okay. So
300 years.
it was around 300. Type it up. Look it up real quick. When did Rome start to fall apart? Because it wasn't like Rome or any of these countries just fell apart overnight.
So
It's a gradual decline.
So it wasn't built in a day in order to
395.
fall in a day.
Exactly, sir.
That's a great point.
And most of these, and when you're sitting back here and explaining
Mhm.
the diminishing of one country and the ascendancy of another, you have to look at it in terms of hundreds of years.
Yeah,
There was increases and there was declines. Okay?
and that's fair.
What did that? Huh? Approximately 395, exactly. And what ends up happening is what you hear about is Rome might have sat back here and the Romans pushed us out further west. But you know what? It was also time for Rome to fall. It was also time for Rome to
Klaus goes at 1,000
hit
years.
hit their peak. And what we're going to do to explain that, and that's what I was going to say, go to Revelation chapter 20 and verse 3. We're going to go there.
Kill the demons.
Revelation. Well, he's in the right spirit. This is how you know the Jews are there. I'd be pissed if I wasn't saying nothing. He's like, come. I'm like, damn, brother, can you give me something? Like, yes. I don't even know yes man's in the truth now. That ain't gonna work, man. Yes, podium guys. All right. Mm-hmm.
You're right.
Mm-hmm.
So,
That's true. That's so true. Preach on, brother. Like, come on, gotta get some info. Revelations 20 and verse 3.
23, right?
Revelation chapter 20, verse 3.
Matter of fact, give me verse 2 and 3. Revelations chapter 20, verse 2 and verse 3.
Revelation chapter 20, verse 2.
I'm sorry.
Verse 1.
Yes.
Revelation.
I'm sorry. I'm doing the most. I'm really. It's easier to explain from verse 1 to 3.
Revelation chapter 20, verse 1. And I saw an angel come down from heaven, having the key of the bottomless pit, and a great chain in his hand.
Listen, the bottomless pit is referring to Europe. The reason that Europe is the bottomless pit is because that country in particular exports so much more than imports way more than they export.
Hey guys,
And they don't have a lot of resources that they can get from that country. They have to pull and take from numerous other countries to sustain themselves.
What minerals are you getting out of Europe? Oh, this is European gold. This is
You might get
European
some
silver.
mandrake. You might get some damn some witch stuff. Yeah, you get some Harry Potter magic stuff out.
Yeah, you might get some plaid from Europe. Right?
Yeah, some mushrooms, some crazy wacky doody mushrooms or something like
You
that.
get some chocolate, maybe. You get some. They got chocolate up there, right? Well, they get it from Africa.
Yeah,
They get it from America.
yeah.
They
It is
just cut that off,
manufactured.
by the way.
Oh, they just
The Africans cut that off.
bless the Most High, bro. But you know what it shows? Because all they do is they jack stuff and then put their name on it and say that it's special.
Yeah.
Swiss chocolate.
Well, this is Swiss, but you don't come from your landmass.
No, you have Swiss manufacturers, man.
Exactly. So
To the
they have
point,
no resources. They don't have the resources to sustain them. So it creates this spirit of let's go other places
And take it. And it gives me a justification to be the devil
Yeah.
and bring hell everywhere I go because I need it. So read on 20 and 1 again.
Verse 1. And I saw an angel come down from heaven, having the key of the bottomless pit
God.
and a great chain in his hand.
Mm-hmm.
And he laid hold on the dragon, that old serpent, which is the devil and Satan, and bound him 1,000 years.
So the scripture is telling us prophetically that the Most High allowed Esau to be bound and been subjugated for 1,000-year time. And as we explained, Rome fell around 390 something, right? AD?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, 180.
But you know what? Right after Rome fell, who rose up? Ishmael rose up. So the Most High allowed Ishmael to kind of be in power from around 500 to 1500 AD.
And they call
that is your 1,000 years.
And they call it the Dark Ages because dark races ruled in that time.
You had dark Israelites in Europe fighting against dark-skinned Arab wild men, fighting for control and dominance over the known world.
And they call it the what? They call it the Crusades, right?
The Crusades. But those that movement didn't just happen for the Holy Land. That movement was happening, and that struggle was happening in Africa, away from the Holy Land.
Exactly.
We were going to war with each other right after Esau faded out. Ishmael rolled in power, and it's that classic combativeness that we have to deal with the nations. The Most High never gave us an opportunity to breathe, man.
And there's a reason why.
I know that.
He wasn't living right.
And he used Ishmael to keep dragging us even further to the west.
Exactly.
To get us prepped for the big fall. Okay? But the fall was gradual. So, where are you at?
Verse 3.
Okay, continue.
Verse 3. And cast him into the bottomless pit.
And so Esau was put into Europe and was stuck into Europe. Read on.
And shut him up. And set a seal upon him, that he should deceive the nations no more.
Yes, wackadoodie mushrooms, Abadiah. That's exactly what I said. Yes, I
got a little more clarity on when Rome completely fell. It was 476 AD.
Okay,
So
even better. That's even a better number.
Yeah.
That lets you know if it's 470 what?
476 AD.
476. That means in that 500 range is when what? Was when Ishmael started the ascension of getting up to power. Because really they started gaining momentum in the 600s, and I'm going to go into that in a second. Ishmael started gaining momentum in the 600 ADs. So it's like a 100-year space, and boom, now they're rising to the top. And then it's their time to reign, and now it's game on again. Now Ishmael wants beef with us when Rome and Greece wanted beef with us before.
So we have
constant smoke.
If it's not Egyptians, if it's not Babylonians,
I know.
There's not Edomites.
And this is where there's a prophecy in Genesis 49 and 8. Somebody give me that. Genesis 49 and 8, and still hold Revelations 20 and 3.
Genesis chapter 49, verse 8.
Let me make sure I get it too.
Switch it on the computer.
Yes. Well, this is going to be real quick.
Okay, never mind.
Okay, Genesis 49 and verse 8.
Judah, thou art he whom thy brethren shall praise. Thy hand shall be in the neck of thine enemies.
And it's showing you our hand is in the neck of our enemies everywhere we go. We're in the midst of fighting the world powers. Whether it's in America, we're going to war with Esau. Whether it's in Africa, fighting Ishmael, fighting Esau, fighting the Romans. We're in the midst, in the thick of everything. We're always in the heat of the action.
We're in battle.
We're always in battle. It's not just Jews in America battle. It's Jews in Africa battle. Jews in Europe battle. Jews fighting Ishmael for the Holy Land battle.
And that's the problem with this isolated spirit. Or we have this isolated, just in American mentality. We're just captives in America. There was captives in South America. There was captives in Mexico. Captives in the Caribbean islands. Our people were captive in Europe.
I'm going to answer that question, Abadiah, real quick, where Ishmael got their wealth. We're going to go into a few scriptures and explain how they rose to power. Slavery, they got a lot of money from slavery. A lot of money from slavery.
Black Jews,
but we'll go into that in a little bit.
Timber.
Well, before that. It's before that. But keep going up in the scriptures in Genesis.
Thy father's children shall bow down before thee.
So the point is this: the brothers of Judah is going to respect and praise Judah for their courage, their fight, and their ability to always stand up in the midst of adversity and be strong for one another.
And be at conflict.
And constantly be at conflict.
And I'm going to tell you this, and if you want to go into it, we're not going to go into it, but it's not because off topic. But the point is, even when we were slaves in Rome, we were the social class, we were the second class citizens of Rome, right? We were having protests.
Yeah.
We were having Roman protests. Like we have protests now, we had protests in Rome then.
Yeah.
And we used to have these riots when we go to war with each other. We had different groups that had disagreements. We would stab each other and go to war. We kill it. It's like the MLK march in San Antonio.
It was that, but you know what also was? It was we were constantly looking for peace, and the nations would continue to instigate us and force that line out of us. There's a reason Mosai talks about Judah as that lion's whelp, that young lion, and what is it going to take to rile Judah up and get them to fight? Who's going to get Judah to sit back and stand up and say, enough of this shit, I'm going to war all the time? Because Judah would sit back here, get a city, get a land, thrive, and want peace.
Yeah.
Their nations wanted that smoke. They want that money, they want that power. Listen, we were thriving later on in Timbuktu.
Yeah.
Ishmael wanted in. Esau wanted in. They kept poking the bear. And then we sit back and stand up and fight. We'd get aggravated. We might lose. We get pushed out further. But let's go there. Let's
Verse 9.
Yeah, we're gonna go to 11 too. But yeah.
Genesis chapter 49, verse 9. Judah is a lion's whelp. From the prey, my son, thou art gone up. He stooped down.
Where are we at again? I'm sorry. Yeah.
Genesis chapter 49, verse 9.
I'm sorry. Yeah, keep going.
Judah is a lion's whelp. From the prey, my son, thou art gone up.
Mm-hmm.
He stooped down. He couched as a lion. And as an old lion, who shall rouse him up?
It just shows you Judah wants to sit back here and get in the tent, eat some barbecue, and live their life out.
That's us.
It's the truth. But you know what? We have great potential in us, but we got to get shook up and roused up for that fire and that lion to come out. And once that lion is out, it's hard to tame us. But the Most High kept instigating that fight, just like the Most High had Samson instigating that beef with the Philistines. Judah was like, dude, can you stop killing innocent Philistine farmers? You're making life so much harder on us. I was angry. I was pissed.
Y'all gotta catch those Shabbat classes.
You should, man.
The Shabbat
it
classes.
really gives clarity.
Yeah.
Understanding the nature of Judah and what the Most High kept doing to instigate and fire up Judah. And this is a prophecy that the Most High kept Israel in the thick of the battles against the nations.
So George Floyd.
Yes. Israel's cool. Israel wants to shuck and jive and laugh and play music and make rap videos. And then George Floyd comes out. Now we got to fight. And now we're going to sit back here and loot and tear shit up. But it takes those extremes to get us out of that comfortable, lazy mindset. True. It's the truth.
It's bigger than me.
Listen, but everybody, it takes these things to make Judah want to fight at. And the Most High knows that about us. And that's why he allows this craziness with these cops to happen.
Yeah.
It brings out the best of us. Sad to say.
We want to be included. We want the American dream. We want to integrate into society. We want to be accepted.
Yeah.
We want to be Greeks and Romans still.
Yeah. So we got Judah in their hands in the neck of the enemies. Go to Psalms chapter 83, verse 1 through 6.
Oh, Revelation.
Finish Revelations. Then we go to the other one.
Revelation chapter 20, verse 3.
Let me make sure I get it right. Slack. Got it.
Revelation chapter 20, verse 3. And cast him into the bottomless pit, and shut him up, and set a seal upon him.
Meaning a seal is just a period of time. So Esau is not going to be in power for a specific period of time. And we read in verse 2 is going to be for that 1,000-year period. Okay? Read on.
That he should deceive the nations no more.
Mm-hmm.
Till the 1,000 years should be fulfilled.
This is how you know this is not talking about some end time situation. This is talking about during the damn dark ages, they were under control, under wraps, had no influence in the world. Okay, read on.
And after that, he must be loosed a little season.
And the Most High still talks about after 1453, so to speak, that season from then to now is still a little season in the eyes of the Heavenly Father.
In the eyes of the Most High, 1,000 years is one day.
Exactly.
1,000 years.
They don't feel like that to us.
As one day with the Lord.
That's damn near 700 boys.
That's what the Bible says.
But you get the point.
1 year with the Lord is 1,000 years of man.
So it's a little season. It's a little season to him.
One day.
Yeah, one day is 1,000 years.
Yeah, one day.
So what the Most High is saying is that Esau was not going to be in power, and they were going to be stuck in Europe for that 1,000-year period. We're all good?
In a bad condition.
Or it's being referred to as the serfs, or the servants and the slaves of the country.
And I'm gonna say this one thing. If you ever get a chance, look up Wild Men and Moors, the tapestry, 14.
Oh yeah. Great,
the
great.
tapestry, Wild Men and Moors.
Yep.
It's a historical tapestry, and it shows that there were black kings and queens, literally, all right, were out, and they had soldiers and servants drinking wine, shooting arrows, and dealing with, they call it the wood demon, all right? The wood demon is referred to, the reference of wood demon is an old reference to Caucasians living in the woods, like white trash, right? I'm not race banging right now, but I'm just saying.
Yes,
I am, but the point is,
Banging heavy, man.
but they were hairy all over. They were hairy, no clothes on, with sticks and rocks.
I
Sticks,
I have it. It's in the other
rocks,
computer, man.
no clothes on. It's called.
You got it in the folder.
It's Stratford, Germany.
Thank you, man. Well,
Stratford, Germany. I believe 1491.
unfortunately, y'all online. I don't have it for y'all online. I have it in the computer.
1400s. Look up Wild.
It's right here. I got it.
Wild Men and Moors.
Everything's
and
gonna
you're
be
gonna get
okay.
online. You're gonna get pieces of the tapestry, but you gotta put the pieces all together in one. Yeah, 14th century black and Moors.
Listen, and look at the hair. Look at the clothes. It looks like it's clothes, but it's hair.
That's not chinchilla, man.
That's caveman hair. Dance as hell. Yeah, it was hair chinchilla.
That's why women be like, ooh, that is so beautiful. Oh,
Is that real?
Tom Cruise. This is Tom Cruise's daddy, y'all. This is daddy, y'all.
But y'all sit back and pass it down.
I'm sorry.
Because that's literally
That's real
listen,
fur.
look at the clothes. Listen, look at the clothes, and you realize they don't have any clothes on.
Oh, wow.
Those aren't clothes. That's hair.
That's bucket.
Yo.
It looks like it's clothes, but they're not clothes. You have brothers, dark-skinned people that were civilized, smooth skin. You have Esau, the so white man. They're hairy as a damn carpet.
Calm.
And you see, look at their toenails and their fingernails. It's like
Overgrown.
claws. And they don't have no clothes on.
Hygiene
It's
not
just
so good.
hair. Look at it. I don't know if it's gotten to y'all yet. But well, come on, man, give it to the people, man.
Hey, I had a picture of this Edomite chick who she broke her leg.
Yeah.
And she was all in the screws and all that. She couldn't shave that leg out. It got so, it was like goat's hair.
Wow.
I had a picture of that, man.
So what we saying? That 1,000-year period, they were in a low condition. We were ruling. We were still hating each other, wicked. East Coast, West Coast, light skin, dark skin, fighting each other, Crips and Bloods, quote unquote. We're still doing that. That's why our society diminished anyway. They overthrew us.
Yep.
That's what happened. That picture is validation and proof that was the condition. They were.
And all we're explaining is that when Esau went down for that 1,000 years and they were not in power, Ishmael got in power, and so did we.
Yeah.
And it was a clash between Israel and Ishmael, the Arabs.
Yeah.
And that was the transfer of power, so to speak.
Quote unquote holy wars.
Okay, the holy wars, exactly. The wars for Jerusalem, the wars for religion. And that's when people were being initiated, and they were like putting people on a set.
On the set.
Ishmael was putting you on Ishmael's set, and the Jews were putting you on a Christian set.
That's what it was.
That's what it was.
Religious banging up.
It really was. And during the time of the Ishmael people, you could survive slavery if you claim being a Muslim.
Yeah.
That's how you saved yourself from slavery and slavery and what do you call it? Castration.
That's the worst thing. Yeah. If you go into the research of it, when they gathered us up, they would castrate us and make us become mercenaries for their militaries. They would have military versus military, castrated men.
Or they would work for they'd be the protectors in the harems back in Arabia.
But how can you be a protector in a harem?
You gotta lose your stuff, man.
You gotta lose your
forever, man. Forever. So, let's go to Psalms 83, verse
I want to see.
1 through 6. Psalms 83,
Yeah.
verse 1 through 6. You finished Revelations, right, Nagaha?
Yes, sir.
Okay. So Psalms 83, verse 1 through 6, kind of explains that, you know what? When Esau goes down, Ishmael comes up, but the entire world was confederate against our people. The nations came together, and whatever they did, their number one priority was to take out the Jews.
So it's not just a white thing. It's not just a black and white skin color
No,
thing.
it's not.
It's not just racism.
It's not just racism. It's a nationality thing.
Okay.
Let's keep going.
Psalms 83, verse 1. Keep not thou silence, O Yahweh. Hold not thy peace, and be not still, O our power. For lo, thine enemies make a tumult.
The nations always are making a tumult. They're always starting some shit. It's always beef. Read on.
And they that hate thee have lifted up the head. They have taken crafty counsel against thy people.
That's why it was very easy for the Romans to work with Ishmael and sit back here and set up different entrapments and snares to keep the Jews in a slavery condition. Read on.
And consulted against thy hidden ones. They have said, come, and let us cut off from being a nation.
He says, cut them off,
From
from being a nation. Read on.
That the name of Israel may be no more in remembrance.
The goal was always to try to cut Israel off completely. This is why Antiochus Epiphanes was trying to wipe us out. This is why the Babylonians were trying to wipe us out. This is why Ishmael was trying to wipe us out. The goal was to sit back and not make us a nation anymore. What do you think the castration was so important? Let's cut down these numbers. Let's cut down these babies, huh? Why keep fighting generation to generation these guys?
And now they've convinced us through their wine, like a war brought out earlier, through the
Their
wine,
propaganda.
their propaganda, their media, and their academia.
Yeah.
They've
Birth
used
control.
They've used these angles to let's go ahead and
Abortions.
abort our children,
Yeah.
and we voluntarily do it.
Yeah. Because they understand, let's keep these numbers down, but now they got to be smarter about cutting numbers down versus cutting your junk off. You got to be smarter now. Read on.
Psalms 83, verse 5. For they have consulted together with one consent. They are confederate against thee.
All the nations are together. They agree the fact that we got to go. They agree with that premise. Listen, we got beef with each other, but you know, one thing we all agree on is like the Sinister Six act.
Yeah.
We all gonna get Spider-Man out.
Exactly.
Listen, we got a little beefs. Y'all don't like this guy Electro and this and this. We're all crime bosses in our own area, but let's all come together and take out this guy because this guy's giving us problems.
Exactly.
If we unite, we can probably take him out. That's what I mean by being confederate against us. Read on.
The tabernacles of Edom
Mm-hmm.
and the Ishmaelites.
You see how they're the first two. Edom and Ishmael, the first two. Because they were going to be the ones that were going to, our thorns in our side down the line.
Primary, yeah.
Exactly. Read on.
Of Moab and the
Hagarenes. And we don't get going into more. It's Ammon and Amalek and all that stuff. But I just wanted to make sure we understood that Edom and Ishmael were the major thorns in our side down the line. Okay. Now, with that being said, let's go to. There's a book called The 100, and it's called The 100. I guess a ranking of the most influential people in history. Okay? And I'm telling you, read it for me, man. We're going to go, matter of fact, somebody read it for me. We're going to go from this paragraph. You know, you read it, and I'll cut off. Don't worry about it. Because I don't want the whole thing going. It's just a book called The 100, and it's explaining, I'm talking about Muhammad. And as we know, Muhammad was the person who initiated Islam. Okay? Oh, man.
Come on.
Let's read it.
Here we go.
Okay.
Right here, right?
No, it's the star part.
Okay. The 100, page 34.
Because, you know, we went into the
Third
Islam
paragraph.
class. So I'm not going into the class or the history of their belief system. I'm just kind of want to explain when they started gaining momentum and power and when they started kind of like gaining control of their own country and then spreading out. Yes, I?
What paragraph again?
Third paragraph.
Yes, page 34, third paragraph.
For 3 years, Muhammad preached only to close friends and associates.
So he started small, started slow, only taught his belief system to his people. Read on.
Then about 613, he began preaching in public.
So we talked about earlier how the Romans fell around close to 400. It was 400, right? It was close to 500, right? So now the Most High was bringing down Rome, and he was starting to build up another group of people. And he was allowing this man, Muhammad. His crazy thing is, the religion didn't even get potent until after he died. And his caliphs and his number 2 came in and took it to the next level. His number 2 was really the guy that inspired the Ishmaelite military force, which were called it's going to explain that the Bedouins. United them, put them together, and then they started sitting back here, united their country. Read on.
As he slowly gained converts,
Mm-hmm.
the Meccan authorities came to consider him a dangerous nuisance.
So the people of Mecca was like, man, we got to stop this dude. He's trying to change this 365 God theory.
Yep.
He's got to die.
Because they were originally pagan, extreme pagans.
They're extreme pagans. Exactly.
Like India, how India has 1,000 different gods.
Mm-hmm.
The Ishmaelites had 365 gods.
And the whole point is this: like, before a country can dominate outward, you have to control and dominate your own country first. Just like the Greeks. Philip II of Macedonia had to unite Greece before Alexander can go and conquer the world.
God.
Alexander couldn't do what he did unless his father conquered Greece.
Yeah.
But let's keep going.
In 1622, fearing for his safety, Muhammad fled to Medina.
622.
In 622.
Yes, I think it's 16.
Slack you if I did.
Yeah.
622. My bad. 622. Fearing for his safety, Muhammad fled to Medina, a city some 200 miles north of Mecca,
Okay.
where he had been offered a position of considerable political power.
Okay. Read on.
This flight, called the
Hegira.
was the turning point of the prophet's life. In Mecca, he had few followers. In Medina, he had many more. And he soon acquired an influence that made him a virtual dictator. During the next 2 years, while Muhammad's following grew rapidly, a series of battles were fought between Medina and Mecca. This war ended in 630 with Muhammad's triumphant return to Mecca as conqueror.
So, what Muhammad did is conquer his country, Saudi Arabia. He got Saudi Arabia united to this Islamic religion. Read on.
The remaining 2.5 years of his life witnessed the rapid conversion of the Arab tribes to the new religion.
Okay.
When Muhammad died in 632, he was the effective ruler of all of southern Arabia.
There we go. Read on.
The Bedouin tribesmen of Arabia had a reputation of fierce warriors, but their numbers were small and plagued by disunity and internecine warfare.
Okay.
They had been no match for the larger armies of the kingdoms in the settled agricultural area of the north. However, unified by Muhammad for the first time in history and inspired by their fervent belief in the one true power.
God. We're gonna throw our things. It's their truth. It's their God, not ours.
Yeah, okay.
But keep going.
These small Arab armies now embarked upon one of the most astonishing series of conquests in human history. To the northeast of Arabia lay the large Neo-Persian Empire of the Sassanids.
Mm-hmm.
To the northwest lay the Byzantine, or Eastern Roman Empire, centered in Constantinople.
Mm-hmm.
Numerically,
Yep.
the Arabs were no match for their opponents on the field of battle, though the inspired Arabs rapidly conquered all of Mesopotamia, Syria, and Palestine by 642.
So what Dawiyat is explaining is what I have on the screen.
Yeah.
Okay. The dark brown image is the expansion that Muhammad did. He took over Saudi Arabia. But then once he united these Bedouin tribes and these warriors, these wartime guys, that next phase of warriors is ones who took out that orange type of land area. Mm-hmm. Okay. And then after them, I would say this, 632 to 661 is when they made that expansion west and east.
So this is the rise of Islam.
This is the rise
all the
of
way
Islam.
to the time period of Malcolm X.
Well,
I'm saying as far as how it influences our people.
Well, yeah, but
Yeah.
just for now, we're dealing with from 632,
Come.
around when Muhammad died, to 750 AD,
Yeah.
is when things started to ramp up, and they started to gain a power source. Now in North Africa, as you see on this map,
Come.
they had power going towards India,
Yeah.
and towards Jerusalem, and towards damn near all the way north as far as where Esau was in the mountains, the Caucasus Mountains.
Sir.
So they went up to the Caucasus Mountains,
Okay.
and that was their border. And Christendom had their area up north also. So now you have, according to the map, Ishmael started going towards northern part of Egypt, Libya, all the way towards Morocco, Algeria, and they even crossed over to the land of Spain. So that was where they started sitting back here and having footholds in the country from around 632 AD to 750 AD. Why are we going here? Because now it's game on, and now Ishmael is getting power, and they're going to start giving us problems in the lands because they're starting to cohabit and get strong positions in the areas where we're still inhabiting it. We haven't gone to the west yet. We're still up being stragglers up north. We got watered down and broken down by the Romans, but we were still functioning there. We just didn't have the heightened societies that we once had. Now Ishmael's coming in there with their belief system and their movement, and now they're starting to lean on us. Okay? Now listen, I don't want to go too heavy and talk all this damn Arab shit. Read this part.
But even these enormous conquests, which were made under the leadership of Muhammad's close friends and immediate successors, Abu Bakr and Umar ibn al-Khattab, did not mark the end of the Arab advance. By 711, the Arab armies had swept completely across North Africa
That's what I want to say.
to the Atlantic Ocean. There, they turned north and crossing the Strait of Gibraltar.
Which is where you get to Spain. Where you get to Spain. Okay, read on.
There, they turned north and crossing the Strait of Gibraltar, overwhelmed the Visigothic kingdom,
Which was our people.
in Spain.
Exactly. So the Goths and Visigoths were our people. So once again, these battles were raging on, and now you got Israel in North Africa, and you got Ishmael in North Africa, and the hate's real. We're gonna let this go. That's enough for this. I don't want to keep talking about how these guys was rising to the power.
But Islam has almost a permanent fingerprint
Yes.
on Africa.
Yes, and so do we. And now we're going to go into these wars and these battles between us and Ishmael. Now we go to Babylon and Timbuktu, and we go to page 131, the bottom paragraph, Elijah.
This is why Islam is not a black man's religion.
No, it ain't.
No matter how many jail sentences we have to do, it's not a black man's religion.
Done. It never was. So once again, it's Babylon and Timbuktu, page 131.
Babylon.
Last
1.2,
paragraph.
Page 131. Last paragraph.
It's going to be real quick.
Come on.
The assertion of these
Yoruba
Jews that their ancestors were driven from locality to locality by Muslim persecution.
And this is what starts to happen. He says the Israelites were being driven from locality to locality by Muslim persecution. We were constantly getting pushed out of a settlement. We'd get a settlement, Ishmael would run us out of that settlement.
So it's a political upheaval. No different, and I don't want to go too crazy, but no different than how you have Cubans that were running from communism. And they said, we're going to go to Florida. And they go from Florida to what? New York, right? And they go all around to different cities for what? Political refuge. It's the same condition, just in this time period.
Yep. Done. We were getting pushed from different countries, and there was no rest for us. So read on.
They did not find rest even when they arrived at Timbuktu.
And it tells you that Timbuktu was West Africa, near the ocean. So we were getting pushed from North Africa all the way down to West Africa.
Yeah.
There was no rest.
Cool.
So it's showing we were in constant war, constant discomfort, and the Romans didn't give us no ease. Ishmael didn't give us no ease. They made it even worse on us. Okay, read on.
Surely the prophecy has been fulfilled, and among these nations shalt thou find no ease.
And that's Deuteronomy 28. Read on.
Neither shall the sole of thy foot have rest, but the Lord shall give thee there a trembling heart, and failing of eyes, and sorrow of mind.
The crazy thing is this. This was not just happening during the slavery of Esau in America. This failing of hearts, this troubling of mind was happening in Africa. Everywhere we were going, we were public enemy number one. Okay? Okay, let that go. Now we're going to go to page 120 of Babylon Timbuktu.
Okay.
Just hang in there, man. It's a lot of info. I know it's getting like, it's not easy, but just keep pushing through, y'all. If you can. If there's any questions, y'all let me know. Okay, so it's page 120. And let me see. We're going to start off at trying to find. Okay, let's go. Give me the first paragraph, and then give me the third paragraph.
Count. Page 120. Many of the tribes.
Matter of fact, I'm sorry. Give me that third paragraph first.
Count. The main factors that motivated the black Jews to penetrate into North Africa were commerce and persecution. Also, these two factors impelled them to migrate into Central Africa, which is known as the Sudan.
So these black Jews were being pushed from North Africa to Central Africa, which was the Sudan. And this is where you get that map that we sent before that had Israel being referred to as those Sudan Nigers.
Yeah.
We got pushed from the north to the central and the west and the south. And that's what we were referred to as Sudan and Bantu Nigers. Okay? That's when it started happening. So listen, give me that first paragraph now.
Count. It says many of the tribes in the Sahara and in the Sudan are Muslims in religion, but are Hebrew in nationality.
So what ended up happening, part of the persecution was that Ishmael was forcing the Jews to sit back here and turn into Islam. They were forcing them to convert. They knew they were Israelites, but they were forcing the being converted, and they chose to be converted over death. Read on.
Nahum Slush says, numbers of these...
That Slushy guy's there, still again.
Okay.
Yeah, read on.
Numbers of these Ishmaelized Jews...
No, Islamized
Jews may be found everywhere. They are among the nomads of Algeria, the Smul, the Hanasha, the Triras, and the Masmada, the Majirin, the Kabylis, and the Tuat.
So these are the guys that live in that Sahara area. That was away from the north, working down to the south. When you see those maps of Africa, you have the north, which was near the water, which was fertile. Then you had that middle part, the Saharan desert, which is where the nomads were at. He says these guys were being converted into Jews. And they were going into those nomadic areas. Some of them were, at least. Read on.
You will find them in southern Morocco, among the powerful clans of the Dagadon.
So now you got Israel and Morocco, which is right across the way from Spain. Israelites that were converted to Islam. Read on.
Who control the routes to Sudan and southward. They are non-Jewish by religion, but aware of their Hebrew origin.
And this is where the religions and political affiliations start kicking in. It was about politics more than nationality.
Yeah, and that's the change. We go from, okay, I know I'm Israelite, but I still choose to be, a Christian. I know I'm Israelite, but I still choose to be a Jehovah's Witness. I know I'm Israelite by nationality, but I still choose to be an atheist or Muslim.
Whatever political affiliation benefits me best. Because it benefited them to be Muslim, so they didn't have to die or get castrated or put in some crazy slavery condition. Okay, let's keep going.
So conversion, the converting of our people.
They are friendly to Jewish merchants. Frequently, the Jew is the only communication between these tribes and the outside world. So, you read?
Yeah. Matter of fact, let me see. We can go there. I don't want to go there yet. Let's go. So damn African market. Yeah, I put that up already. 1 second, y'all. 1 second.
So in a nutshell, what are we saying?
Well, in a nutshell, it's just showing us that now that Ishmael is in the power, they're pushing us further and further west. They're pushing us west, or they're converting us.
Yeah.
They're converting us, or they're pushing. Now, I want to go a little bit more about the propaganda aspect. We're going to go to Babylon, Timbuktu, page 132. And 132, we're going to read the first paragraph and the second paragraph.
Okay. From Babylon to Timbuktu, page 132, paragraph 1. Pertaining to the Hebrew political structure and culture, they have 7 hereditary heads of the community. Their leadership is that of a priesthood. They are known to have copies of portions of the Torah, Old Testament, preserved in a most holy place. However, their social life is not Torah controlled like many of the Hebrew cultural traits among the Ashanti Jews. These black Jews observe certain Jewish customs, among which are the great holy days. In almost every way, these black Jews are like the Yoruba and are hardly distinguishable from them.
Okay, I don't want that. That was a mistake. Go to the second paragraph. Not a mistake. That just talks about how we sat back and still held on to our belief systems, okay, in Africa. But give me that second paragraph.
Okay. Dr. Alan H. Goodbay.
So that's the one thing?
Yes.
So what it shows is when the transatlantic slave trade happened, the Hebrews that came from West Africa, they came to the Americas knowing what?
Who they were.
They knew the holidays.
They knew who we were. But the problem is, what it said is, we had the Torah, but we didn't read it.
Well, same old
We
thing.
just sat back here.
But
we
we
didn't
had the
read
ceremonies.
books, but we had ceremonies. We ate barbecue at.
We had
the gatherings at. What's that?
We had the religious aspect.
We had the religion. We had the gathering aspect, but we didn't stick day to day with the book. And that's how Esau could sit back and look at us and determine we were Jews by the holidays that we followed.
And the same thing with Issachar. When you have the Catholics go into Mexico, they always like, man, they're doing the same thing that they did in the Old Testament about the woman being apart on her cycle.
The Feast of Corn.
The Feast of Corn. These things are very similar at the same times and dates. They do the new moons.
But they weren't reading scriptures.
They weren't reading the Bible.
Got
As
it.
usual.
Got it. So, where were we at? It was 132. Went to the second paragraph. Yeah.
Okay. Dr. Alan H. Goodbay postulates the position that black Jews were on the West African coast, from Senegal to Angola. And they, the Jews, were driven to this area from the Central Sudan by Muslim propagandism.
So once again, that propaganda and that movement was pushing Israel now to Central Sudan. We were getting pushed west, we were getting pushed central. That's what I want to make sure I explained here. Now, we're at a point where Hebrewisms of West Africa. Let me make sure I get this. I know there's a lot of chunky reading, y'all. Just do the best you can to fight through it. I don't think I'm going to go 2.5 hours today. I think I'm going to just go to 2 hours. Give everybody a mental break, man. This is a lot of hard reading. Read this one. Read this paragraph.
The highlighted one?
Yeah, highlighted one.
Okay.
Hebrewism of West Africa, page 216,
I think I'm gonna cut this short.
paragraph
This is-
2.
You said page what?
216, paragraph 2.
Yep. Yep.
We've been converted to both ways.
Yep. Read that paragraph. What is Hebrews West Africa page what?
216, paragraph 2.
Mm-hmm.
It says, from that day to this, there has been in North Africa an unbroken record of the Jews who have endured all the vicissitudes of Vandal, Arab, and other persecutions. In fact, it may be interesting to note in passing the statement of Lieutenant Cole Castleton. The Arabs came again and swept away unstable Berber kingdoms that rose ephemerally.
So what does that show again? It's the same thing as today. The nations are always at war with your biblical foundation. They're all trying to get you to convert to their belief system. But the problem is we always willingly give up our, not beliefs, we always give up our nationality and our, what's it called? Our birthright.
Mm-hmm.
We give up the birthright the Most High gave from Abraham to Isaac to what?
Jacob.
To Jacob. The Most High promised his birthright was going to go to his nation, his people. He has a chosen people, 12 tribes. Judah, Benjamin, Levi, Simeon, Zebulun, Ephraim, Manasseh, Gad, Reuben, Asher, Naphtali, Issachar. So-called Negroes to so-called Native Americans, so-called Hispanics, right?
Mm-hmm.
Those are his people. He gave a covenant, which is the Bible, which is the knowledge, which is the laws of the Heavenly Father, to one nation of people. But the issue is, because we want to exchange our belief systems for idols and other gods and not keep our commandments, we make ourselves subject to persecution from Greeks, Romans, and this is the persecution of the Arabs. Because we always go into the white man, we always bang the white man, we always go into what he did. But you gotta see it's not just the white man, because some of us get stuck on that.
We get stuck on
we just throw the white man, it's just the white man, and they go dap up Arabs. Yeah, man, you my boy, you my brother. I'm gonna buy some stuff, man. I'm gonna go to the store and get a pack. Right? So these things happen, but now you're seeing the dirty laundry of how the Arabs dealt with us on a historical level. And guess what? Their fathers and their grandfathers definitely know this information. They like the music, like how you dress, but they dads taught their sons, hey man, these people are not your people, and we had them in slavery. The Arab term for a black person is a beat. A beat means slave.
Let's keep going, because I'm gonna bring out one more concept that I don't think a lot of Israel knows about, and then we're gonna shut that down. Let's keep going.
They welcome into their ranks on equal terms any defeated warriors prepared to adopt Mohammedanism.
It's a hard one. What they're saying is everybody that's defeated will sit back here and give you a choice: death or servitude.
And what do you think people are going to choose?
And back to the question the sister had about how they get rich. They got rich by first of all, if they beat you, they was going to sit back and keep stacking the numbers really fast. A couple victories, half the guys you defeated going to get on your team. Then you sit back here, you're getting spoils of war everywhere you go.
Yeah.
Then you're sitting back here and you've always had an inclination to tap into a slave trade. So the slave trade just kept getting greater and greater and greater, and that's how they obtained their riches.
So it was like the ball kept rolling and it started snowballing.
It started snowballing, and it didn't take very long. It took around 200 years before they started getting on top. Now what we're going to do, are you finished with that?
There's more.
There's more of that yellow, man? How much more of that yellow, man? Let's keep going.
Half that. A former officer of a Berber queen who had fought against them.
I don't want all that. I think the point came when it dealt with anybody who lost, you were getting converted to Mohammedanism or you was going to die. Right? Now what I want to go into real quick is, let's go to Zephaniah chapter 3 verse 10 down. Zephaniah chapter 3 verse 10 down.
Zephaniah chapter 3, verse 10.
We're going to read from chapter 3 verse 10 through, I would say, we're going to read to 20. We might read to 20. Let's just go. Read that, sir.
Zephaniah chapter 3, verse 10. From beyond the rivers of Ethiopia, my suppliants.
Now listen, I need somebody else to give me the suppliant in the 1828.
Supplant or
something? No, suppliant. It's the people that sit back here and advocate for the Most High.
Okay.
But what you got, Mawa?
suppliant, to supplicate. C, comply and apply, entreating, beseeching.
To beseech, to pursue the Heavenly Father. The people who pursue the Heavenly Father. He's saying this from beyond the rivers of Ethiopia. Now, I'm going to go back to an old map. I don't even think I got this map. When you sit back here, it was a map by Herodotus, where you had Ethiopia was below Libya.
Come.
Ethiopia was below. You had Libya, the ancient map of Africa was Libya, and Ethiopia was below it. So when the Most High is talking about beyond the rivers of Ethiopia, what is he saying? Well, no. The funny thing is this. It says, I saw this today, where you see in Egypt, for example, Egypt, the northern part of Egypt is called Lower Egypt, and the southern part is Higher Egypt. Why am I saying that? Once you cross the Ethiopian River, he's talking about what was happening past the Ethiopia River. What was happening past the Ethiopia River? What happened past the Ethiopia River? Past the river, meaning south of it. What happened south of the Ethiopia River? That happened to Israel. In Africa.
Like before they left?
Yeah. Because the crazy thing is, what ends up happening is we get put into slavery and captured below Ethiopia.
So you're saying the Eastern slave trade?
Yes.
So
because you have a historically you have a transatlantic slave trade,
Right.
and you have a trans-Saharan slave trade.
Because we always talk about the transatlantic.
Exactly.
But we rarely bring up
the trans-Saharan, and that's the point. And this is talking about when Israel got put in captivity in the south below Ethiopia. Well, read that from the top again.
Which is North Central Africa, right? Or East Africa.
What was you gonna say?
Another definition of suppliant.
Okay.
A person making a humble plea to someone in power or authority.
Yes. So listen, what I'm not going to go too heavy in. I've explained so far. We're in North Africa, right? And I think I've clearly explained that Ishmael or the Arabs were pushing us to the Sudan in the central. I brought that out, right, about Israel being in the Central Africa, and we were getting pushed to the west, right? And when the million Jews left from Roman persecution, we went down and went to the west, right? Now, in this map, we're going to go show the Bantu migration. The Israelites, because when you sit back and look at the history of the Bantus are the ones who kept the original language of the Hebrew. Well, the language of Hebrew was closest language in Africa that was close to Hebrew was Bantu.
And this is very, very important for brothers that be liking women that come. I'm just joking. I'm joking.
It's all about the women.
No, listen. When brothers, not brothers, but people in general, when you meet people from Africa, right? There's two classifications of what type of African you are, quote unquote, because Africa's a continent, right? And one of those classifications, you ask them, are you Bantu?
Mm-hmm.
If they're Bantu, more often than not, they're Israelites in Africa. Okay. Not every African we talk to is a Hamite, as previously believed.
Okay.
I'm like, man, I don't. If you're from Africa, I don't want to deal with you, bro. That's your damn brother.
Yeah.
It'd be another Benjamite.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? It'd be another Haitian, another Judite.
Yeah.
But like, I'm not, you African, but I don't want to deal with you, bro. I'm not feeling them. I don't feel you like that. You put my people in slavery, huh? And it be our own people we talking to, because they're Bantus. So what war's going into, the reason why it's so important is because when you deal with people from Africa, if they're Bantu connected,
there's a good chance they could be. Listen, I'm still don't want to.
High degree.
Listen, we're going. I'm not trying to sit back and give specifics and saying Bantus or Israel guaranteed. All I'm trying to explain is that Israel was in Africa. Israel was Bantus. If you're going to sit back and see this map that's online, there was Israelite/Bantu migrations that went into the same areas and territories that ended up being slave trade hotspots.
So they have the same story you have.
Because
Georgia,
when you sit back here and look at the slave trades from even the transatlantic slave trades just wasn't from the west coast of Africa.
Right.
You had west coast of Africa, and you had the central interiors of Africa, where a lot of the slaves came from too. That eventually ended up going to the majority in the South America region.
Yeah.
So, what it's explaining is, how did these guys get from the west to the south? That's the big question. We read about Israel going to the west, from the north to the west. Then what happened? How did we get from the west to the south? And this Bantu migration explains how we got from the west to the south. Because when you sit back here and look at all these maps, I'm just going to start throwing out images.
I got to put one scripture.
Here you go, right here. When you sit back here and look at all that blue has potential in here. Bantu and remember I showed you that German map where it had Sudan Niger and Bantu Niger. There were just different classifications of Israelites that was in the west and in the south. That image right there, that map right there kind of gives you an idea of where the migrations went to. We went east, we went west, southeast and southwest when we left from the west to the south. And it talks about the reason we went from the west to the south was to find better land, find better opportunities, and to keep escaping persecution. The persecution didn't stop at the west. It started north, pushes west, and we kept going south because of more persecution.
And I got to pull a scripture real fast.
Yes, sir.
Real quick, two scriptures. Genesis 32 and 12, 1 Kings 4 and 20.
And also, I'm going to show you this. Even on this is a linguistic map. And all that south and that southwest, that green is Bantu language or the languages that are closest to that ancient Hebrew tongue. And it's all in that green area, from the west to the south. And it keeps showing the same patterns of the same people having the same language going the same directions. That makes sense? Okay, what verse you got, Dawiyah?
Genesis 32 and 12, 1 Kings 4 and 20, and then Isaiah 10. He says 1. 10 and 22.
But that's 3.
Genesis 32 and 12.
Genesis chapter 32 and verse 12 reads, And thou saidest, I will surely do thee good, and make thy seed as the sand of the sea.
So the Most High promised He'd make Israel as the sand of the sea. Read.
Which cannot be numbered for multitude.
Which cannot be numbered for multitude. A dense, intense population. Next scripture.
1 Kings chapter 4, verse 20.
Uh-huh.
Judah and Israel were many.
Judah and Israel were what?
Many.
High, dense in population. Read.
As the sand which is by the sea in multitude.
Uh-huh.
Eating and drinking and making merry.
So, like the sands of the sea. Next scripture. Isaiah 10:22. This is why I did 3.
Isaiah 10 and verse 22.
Uh-huh.
For though thy people Israel be as the sand of the sea.
Though thy people Israel be as what?
The sand of the sea.
We're always compared to the sand of the sea for multitude. And it was promised to Abraham that his seed would be like the sand of the sea. Sand of the sea. Read.
Yet a remnant of
Yet
them.
a what?
Yet a remnant of them.
Yet a remnant, a small amount. Read on.
Shall return. The consumption decreed shall overflow with righteousness.
But the whole point is, Israel's population is like the sand of the sea. All throughout Europe, in North Africa, migrating to the Sahara, going to West Africa, pressed by military war and political upheaval, and then what? By slave trade, going into the interiors and going south and flowing south into Africa. So this is biblical. We're saying you're reading the historical understanding and getting the chronology of these scriptures. You're getting the timeline, because somebody's asked for timelines.
Exactly.
This is the timeline of this scripture. Israel, the sand of the sea, but where?
And there are, even in Isaiah 8, I'm not going there, but Isaiah 18 talks about past the rivers of Ethiopia. There's prophecies about Israel and what they're doing outside or below the rivers of Ethiopia.
This is prophecy.
Isaiah 18 talks about it. Zephaniah 3 talks about it. There are things that happen to Israel that the Most High is talking about based upon our conduct. The Most High keeps drawing us to these locations to get our punishment.
Just like how the Most High prophesied in Deuteronomy 28 verse 68 that Israel would come into a land like Egypt, or Egypt, right? In what?
Ships.
In ships. That was prophesied, right? That was fulfilled 1620, 1619, right? That same type of prophecy, the Most High
It's still
predicting.
leading us up here.
Boom. Over here's the same prophecy.
That's the point.
Just different landmass. Same prophecy.
Different direction.
Different direction.
Listen, listen, Deuteronomy talks about going west. But hell, we went, if you sit back here and look at another map we got, this East African slave trade went to India, went to Arabia. We got shipped from Zanzibar and went all the way east. And we were sitting back here in Arabia as slaves. We was in East India as slaves.
So did we walk on water to India? Or did we go on slave ships to India?
God.
A condition like Egypt.
It was just controlled by Ishmael. That was an Ishmael-run operation eastward. Edomites ran it westward. We were getting smashed both ways.
And they were Confederate.
God, they were Confederate against us. Exactly. The sense, and this is at Abadiah. This is your question was about how they got rich. This is how they got rich. They were getting monies from Esau to bring Jake into slavery on the west, and they had their own racket going east. They was trading both ways. They were getting paid. This is how they were able to finance all these jihads.
Christopher Cologne, he got paid in gold, right?
Who's that?
Christopher Cologne.
Well, yeah, exactly. Listen, but that was with the Europeans.
Yeah.
But Ishmael was getting their own bankrolls from slavery as well. So what we're explaining is, before we jump heavy into Zephaniah, you got some more verses, right?
Nope.
You had more verses?
I was done with that point. I was going to pull about the Greeks, pull on some captivities. It's the same point.
In Joel, right?
Yeah, I was looking for it.
I don't want to, that's 3, but I don't want to go there.
What about Isaiah 11:11 and Amos 9:9?
Yeah, about being scattered, right?
Well, it gives you specific locations where they scattered at.
In Isaiah?
Isaiah 11:11.
I'm
Read it.
here. They left today, Lord, came to pass, second time recovering to Israel, Assyria, Egypt, Pathros, Cush, Elam, yeah.
Those are the specific locations.
Because Elam is in India. We were getting sent to Elam, to Shinar, which is in Babylon. We were getting shipped to all these different
We might as well
countries.
read that because it just confirms what you're saying.
Yeah, read
Isaiah
that.
chapter 11, verse 11. And it shall come to pass in that day that the Lord shall set his hand again the second time to recover the remnant of his people, which shall be left from Assyria and from Egypt.
Which is what? Not modern day Egypt, where it's that the little state in Africa, but ancient Egypt, which was what? Egypt proper, a big landmass, read.
And from Pathros, and from Cush,
Which is Ham, read.
It's Ethiopia.
Yeah.
And from Elam.
And from
It's
what?
India.
Elam.
Elam is India.
Yes. How did we get there? We were getting there from slavery is one arena. One way we got there was from that trans-Saharan slave trade. Read on.
And from Shinar.
And
And
which is in Babylon. Read on.
And from Hamath. And from the islands of the sea.
We were being spread everywhere, but this was part of the check. And this is what Zephaniah was talking about. He was like, listen, man, you guys are going to get dispersed. All the things you guys were doing, it's like the chickens have come home to roost. You've been running and running and running and running and running. Now it's time to get popped. Now it's time for you to fall. So now on the map, you see the Bantu migrations were happening from 500 BC to 1000 AD. We made all we made all these migrations to end up going into damn slavery. And that was the damn sad thing. When you sit back and read about, this is talking about the slave trade. It said between 650 and 1900, historians estimate that 10 to 18 million Africans were enslaved by Arab slave traders and transported over the Red Sea, Indian Ocean, and the Sahara. Many of the Arab slave dealers were physically indistinguishable from Africans they enslaved. You know why? Because it was Israelites who just sat back here and committed to Islam. Were the ones who helped enslave their own people. Then it said,
just like we do now. Don't we sell dope to our own people now? Don't we trap our own people now? Don't we ensnare our own people now? Don't we take advantage of the weak of our nation now?
Rob our own people.
We do the same thing the white man do. We do the same thing the Arab man do.
God.
When we're in a Gentile state of mind, what comes with that is exploiting our own people.
Bro, it said the Arab slave trade predates Islam and lasted for over a millennium. What it's saying is Arabs have been slave trading before Islam was a thing. So they were already used to the slave trading business, but when they got organized, it got even more ramped up, and this is how they got rich.
And how can we prove it biblically? Because what happened to Joseph?
He went to Egypt.
But how did he get to Egypt?
He was sold into slavery by
He was
his brothers.
sold to the Ishmaelites.
Traded.
He was traded. He was sold, right?
He was sold to the Ishmaelites.
To who?
To the Ishmael.
He was sold to Ishmael. Ishmael been traveling for a long time. He been human trafficking.
Trapping people for
He
a
been
while,
he
bro.
been getting it for a minute.
Yep. So it said Arab slave traders transported Africans from present-day Kenya, Mozambique, Tanzania, Ethiopia, and parts of East Africa. All that East Africa area below Ethiopia, below the rivers of Ethiopia, they got all scooped up and were taken to Iran, Iraq, Kuwait, Somalia, Turkey, and other parts of the Middle East and South Asia across the Indian Ocean, mainly Pakistan and India.
By ships.
By ships, side. So there's millions of us over there, right?
He shall enter into captivity again, into Egypt again, by
Bondage,
ships.
We was getting shipped east and west.
You talking about, oh man, we just slavery, we went to Georgia, we went to Mississippi, we went to Texas, we went to the East Coast. You also went to India.
Yeah, bro. And the crazy thing, you look at the maps, we went west. If you look at this map of the Bantu homeland, and we went south, it's in circulation. We went southwest, we got scooped over there. We went southeast, we got scooped over there. Everywhere we went, we got captured, and we couldn't run from the doom that was about to break us.
These curses shall pursue thee and overtake thee.
Now let's go back to Zephaniah 3 and 10. What you gonna say?
That is so much more depth to when David said in Daniel 9:11 about in the whole earth, it says not happening to anyone else. Because it wasn't an isolated event.
And this is how you know this is somebody else.
Yeah.
It's continuous the whole time.
If we ain't the Jews, who else is it?
And
who's the Jews? I used to know white people go to India, bro.
Right.
In a position of captivity on ships.
Listen,
by Arabs,
Saudi
get robbed by
Arabia,
Arabs.
India, it says South Asia.
Right.
All these places, Ishmael was shipping us to. Till 1900,
it wasn't.
They pushed it longer than Esau. They started earlier. They started around the 650s.
But we give them a pass because of Honorable Elijah
They
Muhammad.
started around the 650s. That was when the second phase of Islam started ramping up. From the 650 AD all the way to 1900.
That's crazy. That's a long time.
That's a long damn time. They were scooping Israel going east.
Been going on.
Listen, we had 400 years going west. This was damn. Listen, 650 to what again? 1900? That's 1300 boys,
Yeah.
Years,
That's a day of the Lord.
That's a day of the Lord. I get smoked, Wow. Damn, That's insane. And that's the whole point, It's just showing you, and I'm gonna go now. I can show the slave ports, and it's telling you where we were getting shipped out from. We got sent to Madagascar. We were getting sent to India. We were getting sent to Arabia, Kuwait, all these places. It was some of Kuwait too. All the whole spots. Israel was in these spots.
This matters.
Yes. So when they say sand niggas, there's literal sand niggas in Kuwait. There are brothers out here.
In Madagascar too.
All of them, So, read Zephaniah 3 and 10.
Zephaniah chapter 3, verse 10. From beyond the rivers of Ethiopia, my suppliants, even the daughter of my dispersed, shall bring mine offering.
So he's telling you there's going to be activity of his people beyond the rivers of Ethiopia. But it's still his people. Read on.
In that day shalt thou not be ashamed for all thy doings, wherein thou hast transgressed against me.
We still weren't ashamed for all the transgressions we did against the Heavenly Father.
We never know.
With all the moving around, the shucking and jiving, and going west and going south, we still weren't ashamed for our conduct and our decisions. Read on.
For then I will take away out of the midst of thee them that rejoice in thy pride.
How did he take us? How did he take the people that rejoice in their pride? What did he do to us? He put us in slavery. Because I'm gonna take you out of that land south of Ethiopia. All the ones that had pride, that didn't repent from their negative transgressions, you're getting hit here. You're gonna feel this thing right here.
So gentrification even extends to this time.
God, you're going all that pride, all this migration and moving here, following idols, mixed matching my beliefs. You're gonna get punished for all this. All that migrating. You know what? We went all the way southeast to sit back here and get castrated and put to slavery and be in harems and being served forever.
It's better to go to the south, right? It's
better to Mississippi. It's better to go to Mississippi than go east.
Mississippi any day. Any day. I'm going to Mississippi.
And they said the trans-Saharan slave trade was way brutal, way more violent. They didn't give two craps about you.
They were the worst to the women.
And the men. Listen, you're losing your job. That's it. It's over. Right?
It's a bad day.
And they didn't care because they'll get some more guys coming next week.
Yeah.
So it wasn't about procreation up there.
Because they weren't trying to have us procreate. That's what they wanted.
Not in their own lands, causing problems. But that's the point. He was sending our women and men over there. The women were being sent for sex slaves, sex trafficking. That's what was happening. Bro, it was vicious.
This is real history.
But the Most High saying, listen, below the rivers of Ethiopia, you guys are going to get hit. All this pride's going to catch up to you right there.
You know why? Because previously in class we had...
This chapter is not talking about the fall of Africa. He's talking about Israel and Africa.
Exactly.
And so was Isaiah chapter... I just had it. Isaiah chapter...
11, no.
It was 13, I think. No, it was 18. Isaiah 18, verse 1 through 7 talks about the same thing.
And this happened, we're taking back to old class we had, about Israel couldn't take the check.
Okay.
When the Most High said, listen, I'm going to take care of you, but you got to take the check with these Babylonians.
Yep, Jeremiah.
They're like, nah, buddy. I'm finna dip and go
to Egypt.
I'm going to Egypt.
Yep.
Because I ain't finna be check. I'm not taking the check.
Yep. So we ran from the Muslims in the West and ran back into them in the East to a worse situation. Because it wasn't about leaving, it was about changing your attitude and your outlook towards what you do for the Most High. Continue.
Zephaniah 3, verse 11, the middle. For then I will take away out of thee, midst of thee, them that rejoice in thy pride. And thou shalt no more be haughty because of my holy mountain.
Well, we read that again. I missed. I was checking. Yeah.
Verse 11. In that day shalt thou not be ashamed for all thy doings, wherein thou hast transgressed against me. For then I will take away out of the midst of thee them that rejoice in thy pride. And thou shalt no more be haughty because of my holy mountain.
Exactly. You know, that holy mountain is that stability, that protection the Most High had. You're not going to be proud because of the protection I had anymore, because I'm taking that protection away from you. I'm lifting that protection away from you, and you're going to feel the brunt of what was about to happen to you.
All because we wouldn't follow Christ. Huh?
Exactly. But he gave us a lot of time before he started slamming us. Read on.
Verse 12. I will also leave in the midst of thee an afflicted and poor people.
I'm going to leave you afflicted and poor. And I'm going to break you down to the damn bare bones minimum because of your pride.
And it's not because the Most High didn't love us. Because he only chastises the ones that he what?
Loves.
Because
we kept thriving in Africa, and these nations kept being jealous of our thriving. And they kept chasing us out of the spaces. And we kept that pride. And he had to break us completely to take that pride from us.
It's like trapping on somebody's black.
What's that?
No, I'm just saying, like, in today's terms, it's like trapping on somebody's black and then somebody else looking at you coming up and
taking your block.
It's like real good.
What was you going to say, Naga?
Holy mountain also means he once dwelt with us.
Yes. He took that protection from us. Yeah. That protection is no longer there. Yeah, and the consequences of the trans-Saharan slave trade. And eventually the transatlantic slave trade. Because it's, I don't have that map, but it was the map of Herodotus. I got it on me here, I think. Yeah, it's right here. Look at this map, and it explains below the rivers of Ethiopia a lot better. When you see it says Libya is on top, and Ethiopia is below. And this is below the rivers of Ethiopia. So below is when they start getting hit, east and west. But keep going.
Verse 12. I will also leave in the midst of thee an afflicted and poor people, and they shall trust in the name of the Most High.
They realize all they had now is to sit back and pray to the Most High and ask the Most High to take this pain from them. What he was doing was forcing us to come to him, because we weren't going to come to him any other way unless there was a problem, unless we were broken down and dejected. Read on.
Verse 13. The remnant of Israel shall not do iniquity.
Now we know that's the end result of all the breaking. The Most High, the breaking process he put on us was to get us to sit back and do no more negative. We was going to get tired of sinning, tired of iniquity, and come back to the Heavenly Father. And that's where we're at right here. That 400 to 500 years of transatlantic and 1,300 years of damn slavery, that's even worse, is forcing us to come to him now with humility and supplication.
And we were still using idols. We were still doing, let's not forget that we were heavy idol worshippers.
God. But this chapter is talking about the end times now.
God.
So all that punishment and fire is to bring us now to have supplication towards the Heavenly Father. Mm-hmm. Read on.
Verse 13. The remnant of Israel shall not do iniquity, nor speak lies. Neither shall a deceitful tongue be found in their mouth. For they shall feed and lie down, and none shall make them afraid.
Mm-hmm.
Sing, O daughter of Zion. Shout, O Israel. Be glad and rejoice with all the heart.
But that comes after, man. That comes after all the crying and the pain.
Yeah.
Like in Isaiah chapter 40, I think Moses says, your warfare is accomplished.
Huh.
All the pain and difficulties, it's over now. Now it's time to heal. After the slavery, after the dejection, after the breaking down of our spirit.
And this is why the reincarnation class is so important. When we go through reincarnation classes, we realize that we were our forefathers.
Mm-hmm.
That was us, bro.
God.
That was our people getting conquered.
Getting suffered and punished for their actions.
And our fathers. Every 3 to 4 generations going through these captivities. And this is the last captivity.
Read verse 15.
Verse 15. The Lord hath taken away thy judgment.
He's taken away that pain. He's taken away that death and destruction. He's taken away the severity of how he dealt with us once we crossed over the rivers of Ethiopia. Read on.
He hath cast out thine enemy. The King of Israel, even the Most High, is in the midst of thee. Mm-hmm. Thou shalt not see evil anymore.
At that one time, the holy mountain wasn't there with him. Now the Most High is present with us again. But he had to turn his back on us around that 650 to present time, like he turned his back on us when the Assyrian Empire took over Israel, the northern kingdom.
Now we asked for
Remember the Most High turned his back on us in 2 Kings 17?
Yep.
He turned his back on us then. He turned his back on us now. But we deserved it. And it started from that 70 AD fall, and we kept falling gradually from 70 AD to the damn 2000s. But he said, the warfare is over now. I'm with you now. It's time to sit back here and get back what's rightfully yours.
And this is important to know because they always say, well, you know what? This is a valid point. They say, well, Black history does not start with slavery. It was kings and queens, right? And you know what? We always hear this when you do with conscious people.
Wakanda forever, right?
Conscious people, and even people that just aren't studied enough, will say we weren't always slaves. We were kings and queens, which is true to a degree. But it really is gold. We were slaves for a long time.
You said what?
We were slaves for a long time. You just weren't slaves in America.
Yes. Yes.
Who were slaves in India, slaves in Central Africa,
Hell,
West Africa, North
Pakistan.
Africa.
What kind of bullshit is that?
We were.
I'm a slave in Pakistan.
We've always been playing the slave game.
It's already a struggle country. You're a slave in Pakistan. You're in the bottom of the bottom. There's a reason why those East Indians were referred to as untouchables. They were the bottom of the totem pole. It had to have been outside.
The slaves.
It had to have been outside.
And slaves of the Indians.
East Indians,
East Indians.
God, that's a hell of a damn. What was you doing to deserve that punishment? Anyway, what's the point? I don't want to go into all of it because later on in this chapter talks about we'll get praise and fame in all the country we were brought to shame. Now let's read it. Let's read it. It's a good way to cap it off. Read on. Read verse 16.
Verse 16. In that day it shall be said to Jerusalem, fear thou not, And to Zion, let not thine hands be slack.
So he said, this is the time where it's time to get strong and get bold and come back to the Heavenly Father. Read on.
The Lord thy power in the midst of thee is mighty. He will save. He will rejoice over thee with joy. He will rest in his love. He will joy over thee with singing.
Mm-hmm.
I will gather them that are sorrowful for the solemn assembly.
He's going to gather all the sorrowful for the solemn assembly.
I gotta pull one scripture.
Yes, sir. Yes.
Deuteronomy 28, verse 65.
Deuteronomy chapter 28, verse 65. And among these nations shalt thou find no ease, neither shall the sole of the foot have rest.
So amongst these nations, when we're around and we interact and we're connected to and we're neighbors and we're intermingling and intermarrying with these nations, right? We're not going to find what?
No ease.
No ease. There ain't no ease when you're going to East Indians. You're going to walk in Africa. You walk in Africa, getting castrated, going to
you in Saudi Arabia, bro?
Being human trafficked for sex slaves out. Ain't no ease in that. It was not worth the idolatry.
It wasn't that.
Neither shall the sole of the foot have rest.
Because we keep walking, just like like Gad and Reuben had to do the Trail of Tears. We had our own Trail of Tears. Read.
But the Most High.
Through the Sahara. Read.
But the Most High shall give thee there a trembling heart.
A trembling heart, because you're
that
always
broken spirit.
You're always in the condition of being imprisoned,
being afraid for your life.
That's a constant theme for our people. It's not new. It's not a new theme. This right here is the conclusion.
Yes, this is the conclusion.
Now
the Most High is like, listen, but after all the pain and suffering, you're not going to have to tremble anymore. You're not going to have to be in fear anymore. Okay?
Zephaniah chapter 3, verse 18. I will gather them that are sorrowful for the solemn assembly, who are of thee, to whom the reproach of it was a burden.
Most High turning his back on us was a burden, and it was full of reproach, full of suffering and pain. Read on.
Behold, at that time I will undo all that afflict.
He's going to undo all the affliction that was put on the side.
God.
We just have to sit back and get ready for the blessing to come now. Make sure your works are in order and your conduct is right, so you can get blessed.
So our house is in order.
Yes.
Our affairs in order. Our mind and spirits in order.
God.
This is why you want to be humble. This is why you want to follow orders. This is why you want to follow counsel.
This is the benefit of doing right.
This is why you do things the right way.
This is the benefit of rehearsing the righteous acts. Exactly.
God.
So you can get ready when he comes and brings us down for that solemn assembly. Read on.
And I will save her that halted, and gather her that was driven out.
Mm-hmm.
And I will get them praise and fame in every land.
Victory.
Where they have been put to shame.
He's going to gather us all back together, and we're going to be on top again the right way. But we had to get spanked. We had to get punished. We had to fall. And this whole process we were explaining about Africa is all the curves and ups and downs and the highs and lows that we went through in order to sit back and get right to the spot where he had to have us put in captivity, so we can be humbled, so we can come back to him, and to the Most High made a decision that his warfare was accomplished with us, and he can put us back in our rightful place. This is just a small microcosm of it. There's more, but I think this kind of ends today in the no. But just to recap, Israel was up north during the time of the Greeks, North Africa. Mm-hmm. Then the Romans came in, took out Jerusalem in 70 AD, pushed us out into Africa even more. Now we had over 2 million Israelites in Africa.
But we previously, in the last
had
class,
1 million.
Previously we had outposts from different captivities.
All in North Africa.
Con.
So now we had the Romans pushing the Jews out of Jerusalem, push us out into Africa. Some of us went down south and west. Mm-hmm. Some of us went up north more. There was wars around 115 AD that broke down a lot of those northern countries, northern cities that were our strongholds. We started surviving, but we were on a lower level because all the power and riches we'd accumulated had been broken down in Alexandria, Cyrene, Tripoli, so forth and so on. So now, as that's happening, the Roman Empire is fading. Now you have the Arab kingdom is coming into power, and they're pushing us further west. And then that push west is also they're pushing us down south. And as that Bantu migration kicks in, and now we're going down southwest, and southeast. Now, during that time, we were pushing southwest, southeast was around 500 BC to 1000 AD.
And this
So in that 1500 period of time, 1500 years, we were migrating southeast, and the Most High was setting us up for that eastern trans-Saharan slave trade in the east and the transatlantic in the west.
And this all proves the Bible is true
Got it.
on a historical level.
And that all those people that were getting put in captivity were Israelites. And those guys were Bantus, they were Yorubas, they were Ashantis, they were our people. Okay? And that was the point. And then going into Haggai 3, read on that last verse, bro, verse 20.
Haggai chapter 3, verse 20. Well, Haggai chapter 3?
Zephaniah?
I'm sorry. I'm looking at Haggai, Zephaniah.
Oh,
Haggai is the next
Zephaniah.
verse. I'm being an idiot.
Zephaniah chapter 3, verse 20. At that time will I bring you again, even in the time that I gather you. For I will make you a name and a praise among all people of the earth, when I turn back your captivity before your eyes, saith the Most High.
All that pain and suffering is going to turn it back before our eyes. That hasn't happened yet, but it will. Are there any questions? I know that it was a lot of reading and a lot of scientific reading books, but we got through it. Any questions, comments, statements, issues? Yes, I.
We had mentioned about our nation, Israel, worshiping other idols and kind of learning from the different nations.
Yep.
One thing I also learned from this was that us as Israelites, we always found a way to want to get comfortable.
Yeah.
And not want to serve the Heavenly Father, because either one, it was too much, and also it's just a feeling of wanting to obey a certain amount of rules, how the Heavenly Father wanted to conduct us, to how to live and how to, follow His laws, statutes, and commandments. We looked at the other nations and we kind of discovered, or we kind of seen how they was getting comfortable, they was doing their own thing. They didn't want to follow the Most High, they were just doing their own thing. And I guess that's how we had got comfortable as well, to not want to serve the Heavenly Father.
You know why? Because we just want to make our money and go home. And fit into the whole environment what was around us and just blend in. And the Most High kept making our environment unlivable. The nations kept targeting us and forcing us to fight, forcing us to stand and follow our laws. And the more we kept getting wicked, He said, I had enough. Once you get over those rivers of Ethiopia, I'm busting you, man. I'm going to break you. I'm going to break that pride. Finally, I'm going to break that pride. And He's going to have us in a broken state for generations. That was that final breaking process, like Deuteronomy 28 was talking about. Like I said, the motivation is to sit back here and fight, never to go back to that situation again, and appreciate every day the Most High gives us on earth right now.
Right.
Are there any other questions?
Well, one more last statement. Okay. I also noticed that we always wait till
we
always wait till we're at the worst of our conditions or our adversity to, now we're following after the Most High, now we're crying after the Most High, now we're praying after the Most High.
After rock bottom, right?
Right.
That is Israel's number one MO.
The king of the bottom.
At rock bottom, now I want to believe in Jesus and send prayers up and pray to the Heavenly Father.
Start from the bottom up.
But we're going to shut it down, y'all. Thwada for tuning in. I will see you guys on Wednesday. Shamshawan will be in here, and we'll keep rolling through the rest of the week, all right? Shalom. Talk to y'all soon. And have a great night.